Hey friends, hope you're all doing well. We're doing okay too, just really tired since we've been working non-stop. We wanted to answer a question many of you ask: how does our publishing process work? Most of our audiobooks are first posted on Patreon as paid content. They stay behind a paywall for a few months. After that, they become free to access on Patreon forever. Then, a few weeks later, we upload them to other platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, X. Lately, our community hasn't been growing much, and we could really use your help. Please share our site in your Facebook groups, Discord servers, Reddit threads, Twitter, X, or with any friends who might be interested. Every little bit helps and we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for being with us and supporting what we do. Chapter 1: Knowledge is Power. The last one. A cheerful laugh echoed in the boundless library. Owen stood amidst a pile of books. Today, he would finish reading the last book and finally escape this terrifying prison that had trapped him for billions of years. This was the Void Library. A place that gathered knowledge from all across the universe. Originally just an ordinary human from Earth, Owen had been swept into a temporal vortex by accident. When he awoke, he found himself here. For the first decade, he was overjoyed, devouring knowledge that didn't exist on Earth. Magic, knights, alchemy, magic rays. He fantasized about one day leaving this place and wreaking havoc, commanding the masses, and becoming a legend in history books. After a century, Owen grew anxious. His family and friends were long gone, and his name would fade into oblivion. After a millennium, Owen fell silent. He read mechanically, as if he were a walking corpse. Now, billions of years had passed. Owen smiled as he finished the last page. The entire Void Library began to tremble. A portal of light appeared before him. On the other side was the world outside, the scenery he hadn't seen in ages. I can finally leave. Owen's laughter grew maniacal. Anyone imprisoned for billions of years would go mad. Owen was no exception. He stepped through the portal. All he wanted now was to destroy anything in the outside world that displeased him. Blinding white light flashed. TSK, you actually woke up. A sharp male voice rang out. What bad luck. I had planned for you to die in your coma. Owen opened his eyes and found himself trapped in a magic ray. Not far away stood a mage in a black robe. The mage droned on, and soon, Owen understood his situation. Time had long since reduced his body to ashes. The body he was in now wasn't even his own. It belonged to a mage named Daniel. Such a failure, the black-robed mage said. You're 40 years old and only a tier iron. If it weren't for your father, there's no way someone as weak as you could become the headmaster of a magic academy. You're right, Owen nodded. Quite the failure indeed. The black-robed mage looked at Daniel's indifferent expression and sensed that something was off. Don't try anything. The mage snapped. The magic array beneath your feet is already linked to your mana. As soon as the magic array is activated, Owen interjected, my body will boom and explode, leaving me a pile of blood and guts on your head. The black-robed mage was silent for a few seconds. He sensed things were spiraling out of his control. Yes, your knowledge of magic theory is impressive, the mage admitted, but your strength is lacking. In 1 minute, you'll be dead. Owen nodded. At tier iron, indeed, he couldn't break free from the magic array. But knowledge is power. Billions of years of accumulated knowledge were enough for Owen to wreak havoc in this world. He just had one small question left. Setting up this kind of mana-linking magic array must have been troublesome. You could have just killed me directly, Owen said. So, you went to the trouble to make it look like an accident? Someone hired you to kill me, and they must have a conflict of interest with me. The black-robed mage nervously glanced around. Daniel, no, Owen, was making him uneasy. The mage was about to respond when Owen stopped him. Wait, I think I've figured it out. Memories surged through Owen's mind. They were the original owner's memories and emotions. Daniel's father, an archmage and the headmaster of Crossbridge Academy, had recently passed away. That was the real reason someone had dared to send a killer after Daniel. I see, Owen nodded. Now, you can proceed. What? The black-robed mage frowned. Something wasn't right. Everything that had just happened felt wrong. To avoid any further complications, the black-robed mage immediately activated the magic array. Mana tendrils from the array began to extend toward Owen. The spell took effect, which normally would have been instantaneous. But to Owen, the process of the magic invading his body unfolded in slow motion, as if time itself had been stretched out. Too slow. So slow that Owen's mind began to wander. He couldn't help but recall those days in the Void Library. Time is the most powerful weapon. Billions of years of solitude would shatter the souls of ordinary people. Owen had survived and completed the library's task, thanks to his system. With its help, not only had he withstood the erosion of time, But for every book he finished reading in the Void Library, he received a reward from the system. After countless millennia, even the most worthless of rewards, mana stones, which served as currency or mana storage tools, had accumulated in terrifying numbers. And those rewards were secondary. The real treasure was the vast knowledge contained within the Void Library's collection. Books of every known language, technology, and magic from the multiverse resided there. In terms of knowledge, after billions of years of learning, Owen was practically omniscient. Magic held no secrets from him. The magic array had been set up in a remote forest, surrounded by another array to isolate sound. The son of an archmage, trying to take a shortcut to boost his tier in a secluded spot of the academy, ends up burning himself and exploding due to the mana in his body. Daniel, your pathetic life ends here. The black-robed mage relaxed as Daniel remained motionless. Threads of mana from the magic array seeped into Daniel's body. The more powerful the mage's internal mana, the greater the damage from such an attack. What a waste, Owen said disapprovingly. A tier iron failure doesn't need such a fine magic array. If it were him, he would have had thousands of better ways to make Daniel's death look like an accident. The black-robed mage didn't know how to respond. Then he noticed something strange. Why? Why aren't you dead yet? You should have exploded by now. What are you doing? The seasoned golden-ranked mage realized something had gone wrong. The magic array began to flicker erratically. Owen stretched lazily. He looked at a specific spot on the magic array. All magic arrays, spells, and other magical constructs were based on strict grammatical rules. They were written in English, with some key terms replaced by Latin. Owen had long mastered every known language, including the writings of different civilizations across the universe. Deciphering the mysteries of magic, or even tampering with an enemy's spells, was something Owen could easily do, thanks to his vast knowledge and well-tempered mind power. The syntax written on the magic array was like an open book to Owen, revealing all its secrets. Owen directed his mana to follow the link with the array and began altering its structure. It was simple for him, just change the original attack command from "to the other party" to myself. But for Daniel, it would have been nearly impossible. This body lacked talent, and its mana flowed sluggishly. Even for someone as knowledgeable as Owen, it took a few seconds. Well then, goodbye, Owen smiled at the black-robed mage. Boom. You. Those were the last words the black-robed mage uttered. The magic array reversed. The attack originally aimed at Owen rebounded onto the mage. The black-robed mage began to swell, like an overripe tomato, and with a boom, he exploded. Dark red tomato juice splattered around. The soundproofing array suddenly lit up, as Owen had altered it to keep the blood rain from dirtying his shoes. Nice plan, sloppy execution, Owen commented like a teacher. Too many flaws, allowing me to easily alter the syntax. Killer, remember this in your next life. Smelling the blood in the air, Owen's rage and murderous intent slightly subsided. At this moment, Owen and Daniel's memories fully merged. Looking southward, not far away stood Crossbridge Academy. In Riverside City, a small northern town on the continent, Crossbridge Academy had risen to prominence over the past few decades, thanks to the mages it had trained, making it as renowned as the other two great families. Now that the old headmaster had passed away, everyone believed Crossbridge Academy was on the brink of collapse. Owen didn't think so. The academy belonged to Daniel, which meant it belonged to him. Anyone who tried to take it from him would die. Owen hummed a cheerful tune as he headed toward Crossbridge Academy. Smashing tomatoes felt good. Freedom felt even better. Chapter 2, Crossbridge Academy covered a vast area. Even though it had fallen into decline, it still looked quite grand from a distance. Daniel moved slowly. He couldn't help but feel helpless with this body that had never been properly trained. It was as slow as a pregnant snail. A small figure was pacing at the academy gate. Upon seeing Daniel, she immediately rushed over. "Father, you're hurt." The girl, about 12 or 13 years old and bearing a striking resemblance to Daniel, said, "Let me help you get treated." "I'm fine." As Daniel was supported by the girl, a sudden, indescribable feeling surged from his heart. That deep emotion, that overwhelming love that made him want to cry, caused Daniel to tremble. What was this? This warm sensation? What was it? A silent sigh lingered in the wind. "My Rose, my daughter, my life, my everything." Daniel frowned. He knew the original owner's soul had already perished, but he didn't expect to feel such intense fatherly love upon seeing his daughter. "Are you really okay, father?" Rose's big eyes were filled with worry. "You look so tired." This concern made Owen, who had been alone for billions of years, feel a bit uncomfortable. But it wasn't a bad feeling. The murderous intent and desire for destruction in his heart subsided slightly. "I'm fine." Daniel patted her head. "My daughter Rose, from now on, I will protect you." "Father, I will also train hard." "I want to protect you too," Rose said seriously. Daniel smiled slightly. She was a good child. The academy grounds were nearly deserted. Daniel noticed that, apart from a few students, he hadn't seen a single teacher since entering. Rose's expression also carried a hint of sadness. "What happened while I was away?" Daniel suddenly asked. "And nothing happened." Rose forced a smile, trying to guide Daniel back to rest. "Rose." Daniel looked into her eyes. "You can't trust me. Whatever the problem is, I can solve it." Today, her father seemed different. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hide it from you," Rose said cautiously. "It just happened so suddenly. After you left the academy, all the teachers resigned." As expected, Daniel nodded. People are fickle. Some of the teachers must have heard rumors, assuming that Daniel would never return. "Aren't you angry, father?" Rose asked in surprise. "You worked so hard before, trying your best to keep every teacher." "My mindset has changed," Daniel said, looking at the empty campus. "This is now my academy. I will rebuild it, and the first step is to clear out the disloyal and useless trash." Daniel was eager to reorganize the academy. Learning was painful. He had suffered for billions of years. Now, it was time for the students to experience the pain of learning too. The thought of students weeping as they studied brought Daniel a strange sense of joy. The few students passing by greeted Daniel respectfully. Even though Daniel's strength was weak, it didn't affect the respect and affection the students had for him. Their magic academy was more akin to an orphanage. The previous headmaster, Daniel's father, was an archmage from the southern continent. After arriving in Riverside City, he dedicated himself to spreading magic education, founding the academy. A significant portion of the students were orphans with nowhere to go. The academy not only provided them with an education but also a means of survival. When the archmage was still alive, the academy could attract decent instructors. But after his death, the academy's influence and appeal waned. It was no surprise that the teachers had collectively resigned today. Coupled with the recent assassination attempt, it was clear that someone wanted the academy to disappear. "Father, I support your decision," Rose said, seeing Daniel's determined expression, finding courage rising in her own heart. "But what about the upcoming classes?" "Let everyone rest for a few days." Daniel had already formulated a plan. "I will find new teachers immediately." He wanted to take further action, but his body was too exhausted. He could only return to his room to rest. He dug out the original owner's stash of recovery potions. Daniel downed one in a single gulp. As he felt his strength return, he began to contemplate his next move. It's obvious who sent the assassin, the other two families, Daniel thought. House Lunastone and House Windwisper. The Mistriver realm is about to open. With our academy out of the way, there will be fewer competitors for the treasures within. Daniel wasn't worried. Although his body was weak, he possessed something extremely valuable in this world, mana stones. The billions of years he spent trapped in the Void Library, with the help of the system, allowed Daniel to fully immerse himself in the endless ocean of knowledge. Countless magic, languages, and technologies had been completely assimilated. He could wield this knowledge as easily as moving his own limbs. But aside from this invaluable knowledge, the system had also rewarded him with mana stones for every book he finished and mastered in the Void Library. For the old Daniel, trapped in a chaotic space, mana stones held no real significance. But now, things were different. Mana stones were the universal currency in the magical world, with real importance. The mana stored within them could be used by mages to ascend tiers or directly cast spells. The value of a mana stone was also directly related to its purity. "I haven't really paid attention before. How many mana stones do I have now?" Daniel closed his eyes, and his current resource reserves appeared before him, 999,999. Knowledge is wealth. Daniel was quite satisfied. Study hard, and you can have everything. This was a truly astronomical figure. If what Daniel held were 1,000,000,000,000 tons of paper currency, it would be as good as holding 1,000,000,000,000 tons of worthless paper. Paper, in itself, has no value. Flooding the world with 1,000,000,000,000 tons of paper currency wouldn't boost the economy. It would only stall development or even cause collapse, ruining countless lives. That would be a disaster. But mana stones were different. Mana stones themselves were mana. Their currency aspect was the least valuable of their properties. The ability to provide mages with mana that was difficult to extract naturally was what made these stones truly precious. No one could ever have too many mana stones. Daniel opened his right hand. A soft sound, like the gentle flow of water, filled the air. Pure mana stones didn't fall one by one, they poured out in torrents from his palm. What a beautiful sound, Daniel enjoyed it. Once the floor was piled with mana stones, he snapped his fingers. The mana stones instantly vanished, returning to the system's storage. And that was the slowest way to retrieve them. If Daniel so desired, with just a thought, he could fill an entire building with mana stones in an instant. Yet despite the enormous piles, his account balance, those 9 towering digits, didn't decrease at all. Infinite mana stones meant infinite mana. And with infinite mana, combined with Daniel's boundless knowledge, he could change the entire world. A mage's greatest challenges in tier ascension are talent and wealth. Daniel himself lacks talent, but he has no shortage of wealth. In the face of my mind and knowledge, talent is irrelevant. After sorting through the original owner's memories, he knew that in this world, all humans were descendants of great deities. Everyone had inherited a fraction of divine bloodline, which accounted for the differences in talent among individuals. The higher the concentration of divine blood, the greater the talent, making it easier to inscribe magic patterns and faster to release mana. The old methods of inscribing magic patterns, passed down through generations, were useless to Daniel. But so what? Who cares about so-called bloodline talent? Daniel scoffed. The knowledge in my head will carve out a new path. From now on, bloodline talent will no longer be an obstacle in my ascension. Chapter 3, Talent and Bloodline essentially boil down to how easily one can engrave a magic pattern. Magic patterns refer to the unique markings naturally inscribed in a person's body as they manipulate mana to cast spells. It's similar to how rivers carve out beds as they flow across the earth. The formation of magic patterns inside a mage's body has always been considered a natural phenomenon that cannot be artificially influenced. The easier and more intricate these patterns form, the better the talent and the purer the bloodline of the mage, the more efficient their magical abilities become. This, in turn, translates to greater power, more specifically, destructive power. Now, Daniel's mastery of magical abilities far surpasses what any mage in this world can imagine. And this is despite being hindered by the limited talent of his current body. This body couldn't match the knowledge he possessed. However, it wasn't entirely beyond remedy. Daniel held his breath, focused, and channeled his mana to carefully examine his current body. With mana tendrils weaving through him, the mysteries of the human body unfolded before his eyes. Fascinating. The principles behind how magic patterns form are surprisingly similar to the technological structures of many civilizations. In fact, it's almost identical to the circuit principles of some cultures. The more Daniel explored the intricacies of magic, and the more he aligned and merged it with his vast knowledge, the more confident he became that he could break free from the so-called limits of talent and bloodline. After careful observation, he discovered that no matter how mana flows, it always passes through the heart. So Daniel decided to engrave an intricate magic pattern directly on his heart. By preparing this magic pattern in advance, it would activate naturally as mana flows through the heart. This way, even those with low bloodline concentration who are unable to inscribe magic patterns on their hearts could improve their magical abilities by practicing this method. Talent would no longer be a barrier. I'll call it mana core engraving. The magic pattern would connect directly through the heart. Mana would flow freely without obstruction. In fact, if Daniel wished, with his enormous reserve of mana stones, he could unleash a torrent of pure mana through his body into the real world without any need for skill. Of course, he wouldn't do that. Firstly, because such a mana flood could be apocalyptic. Secondly, his current physical body wasn't strong enough to withstand it. The next day, Daniel convened an emergency meeting with the academy's leadership. Though most of the teachers had resigned, a few remained. They were mostly long-time employees who had served alongside Daniel's father and had a deep emotional connection to the academy, something money couldn't buy. The meeting room was almost empty, with only 4 people seated. Daniel surveyed the room. Not bad. The remaining few looked worried, like the end of the world was near, which showed they genuinely cared about the academy's fate. Everyone, given the current situation, what are your thoughts? Daniel was the first to speak. Don't hold back. Speak freely. The vice headmaster, seated to Daniel's left, sighed. Forgive me, Daniel. I'm just deeply concerned, said Vice Headmaster Aldrich, a white-haired elder. We can cover for the teachers who left, but the departure of the 3 main lecturers has been hard for many students to accept. In fact, this kind of collective resignation, essentially a mass defection, had never happened before. When the old headmaster was alive, he treated everyone with sincerity and virtue, earning respect and fostering unity throughout the academy. From the academic affairs office to the staff and students, everyone regarded the academy as their home. The departure of those 3 main lecturers wasn't just about disrupting classes. More importantly, it broke the hearts of everyone in this tight-knit family. Departure is a lesson in itself. The students had learned it now, Daniel said calmly. What about you, Mrs. Olda? It seems you have something to say. Logistics Director Isolda, who was known for her fiery temper, was surprised by Daniel's demeanor. Was this the same weak new headmaster? Headmaster, I think this situation is more complicated than it seems. I personally witnessed the alchemy instructor secretly meeting with people from House Windweisper multiple times. Yes, I noticed it too, Aldrich chimed in. As Mrs. Solda mentioned, it seems the teachers left because they were offered better conditions elsewhere. Compared to the hot-tempered Isolde, Aldrich was much more composed. He was someone who could solve problems and had been the old headmaster's most trusted right-hand man. After Daniel took over Crossbridge Academy, it was mainly Aldrich who managed all affairs, given his competence and reliability. And as far as I know, it wasn't just House Windwisper. Aldrich paused before continuing. House Lunastone was also involved in this incident. They tried to lure other instructors as well, though they only succeeded with those 3. 3 isn't enough for you? Isolde slammed the table, furious at the 3 traitorous lecturers. Daniel raised a hand, signaling her to calm down. Miss Isolde, getting angry won't solve anything. It will only make you ill. The situation is clear now. Let Aldrich finish. Although Daniel's talent was limited, earning him disdain for inheriting the headmaster role, within the academy, teachers and students still respected the new headmaster, the son of an archmage, who had a kind and gentle personality. Isolde sat down, fuming. Even though Daniel already knew the details, he didn't interrupt the vice-headmaster. As Aldrich continued his analysis, it became apparent that among the 3 major powers in Riverside City, the Magic Academy had always clashed with House Windwisper. Even though both House Windwisper and House Lunastone were involved in poaching the Academy's staff, it was clear that House Windwisper was leading the charge. They saw an opportunity now that the old archmage had passed away, and Daniel, with his lack of talent, seemed like an easy target. They planned to reshape the balance of power in Riverside City, reducing the 3 powers to 2. If House Windwisper could gain an upper hand in this struggle, they could potentially become the dominant family in the city, or at the very least, it was a direction worth pursuing. Therefore, Aldrich continued, we need to restart teaching as soon as possible to stabilize the situation. Otherwise, not only will external forces increasingly challenge the academy, but it will also waste precious time for the students. After finishing, Aldrich glanced at Daniel, curious. This new headmaster, who had once appeared unmotivated and incapable, now seemed confident, even assured of victory. How many students are there currently at the academy? Daniel suddenly asked. Aldrich was momentarily surprised, but he quickly answered, we have 283 students. In the 5 main fields, magic theory, alchemy, magic arrays, and mana forging, there are 283 students in total. Speaking of the students, the academic affairs officer raised his hand, and Daniel nodded for him to speak. Mr. Rowan, the academic affairs officer, was responsible for formulating the teaching plans, organizing academy activities, and other administrative tasks. He also managed resource allocation, while logistics director Isolde handled distribution. One more thing, Daniel. As for the mana stones, magical metals, alchemy equipment, and the various rare items needed for drawing magic arrays during the students' training, I'll be blunt, we are in dire shortage. Even if we find replacements for the 3 lecturers, we'll still have trouble progressing with the lessons. The academic affairs officer was at his wits' end. Educational plans couldn't be implemented. They were running out of everything. With the lecturers gone, perhaps the teaching assistants could step in temporarily. Even upperclassmen teaching underclassmen could suffice in a pinch. But lacking teaching tools and resources was a real headache. Even the best chef can't cook without ingredients. Chapter 4, especially mana stones. Rowan had barely begun when logistics director Isolde stood up alongside him to voice their grievances. This was right in her area of expertise as the logistics director. Headmaster Daniel, we're truly short on mana stones. The academic affairs officer and the logistics director were practically on the verge of tears. Whether it's alchemy, drawing magic arrays, or forging magical items, what doesn't require mana stones? But our academy, Isolde clapped her hands together. We simply don't have any mana stones. Well, not entirely none. At least Daniel knew that logistics were just responsible for the mana stone expenditures related to student classes and teacher salaries. They also managed all the academy's external expenses, from taxes, food, and water, to transportation for field trips, renting venues, and even dealings with Riverside City officials. All of this fell under logistics. Given the academy's size, these miscellaneous costs added up to thousands of intermediate mana stones each year. In terms of teaching, both teachers and students had to rely on inferior mana stones, which were reused over and over. Some mana stones were completely drained of mana and had turned into ordinary rocks but were still being used in model classes. In short, every little thing consumed mana stones. Maybe the overwhelming burden, coupled with the lack of mana stones, was what caused Isolde's temper to grow worse over time. With Isolde and Rowan leading the complaints, the other key staff members also began to chime in. The head of admissions lamented, if things keep going this way, recruitment next year will be a huge problem. Even at the bare minimum, we might not have enough resources to care for the children we bring in. Some of the remaining teachers, though willing to forego their pay for the time being, admitted that their gestures were only a drop in the ocean. It wouldn't make much difference in addressing the Academy's massive monostone deficit. Back when the old Archmage was alive, his personal connections allowed the Academy to secure funding through loans or other means. The contributions of alumni helped fill some of the gaps in the Academy's finances, and the Archmage himself would even take on external work to earn monostones to keep the Academy running. But now, the Academy had no one like the old Archmage, someone with the influence and ability to bring in monostones. At least, that's how the Academy staff saw it. Daniel listened as everyone expressed their views, and although the atmosphere wasn't too chaotic, the concern in the room was clear. He wasn't the least bit impatient. Billions of years of training had given Daniel immense patience. He nodded and raised his hands, signaling everyone to sit down. In the end, the problem boils down to one thing: our lack of monostones. Exactly, Isolde stood up again. Right now, the Academy's monostone reserves are practically non-existent. After paying for rent, taxes, and food, we're barely breaking even. Daniel asked, "How much do we need?" "Give me a number." Isolde froze for a moment, as if she hadn't quite processed what the headmaster had just said. "I'm asking, how many monostones do we need right now?" "Well." Isolde glanced at her colleagues, and they all avoided eye contact. She hesitated before finally saying, "Monostones. The more, the better, but..." They were reluctant to give a figure, afraid of putting too much pressure on Daniel. Snap. Daniel snapped his fingers. "Let's settle the monostone issue first." He understood their good intentions but found it unnecessary. Monostones were the last thing Daniel was lacking. He just needed to find the right opportunity to introduce his monostones legally. At that moment, there was a knock on the meeting room door. It was Rose. "Father, the carriage is ready." "Headmaster, where are you going?" The group looked puzzled. They had no idea what Daniel was planning. "Come with me, Isolde," Daniel said. The logistics director stood up and followed Daniel to the door, finally realizing she hadn't asked the most important question. "Where are we going?" "To solve the monostone issue," Daniel replied concisely. "Solve it? How? Where could he go to solve it?" Very few mages in the world weren't short on monostones. How could he just go somewhere and resolve such a problem? Though Isolde had 1,000 questions in her head, she still followed Daniel to the carriage Rose had prepared. As the logistics director, Isolde often had to step in herself due to the Academy's financial constraints. She even took on tasks like driving the carriage. So, with her short wavy hair and smart, sharp demeanor, the ever-efficient Isolde personally took the reins and drove Daniel's carriage. "Headmaster, where exactly are we going?" Isolde asked once they were on the road. "Dragonscale Bank." The carriage wasn't large, just a one-horse, two-wheel cart with an arched canopy over the back. Daniel and Isolde sat on the front plank, with Isolde holding the reins. "Dragonscale Bank?" Isolde's eyes lit up. Could it be that the old headmaster left some fortune in their vault? "You'll see when we get there," Daniel replied. He had intended to close his eyes and rest, but the constant rattling of the carriage made it too uncomfortable. From the back of the carriage came the occasional sound of something small and hard bouncing around. Daniel didn't say anything, and Isolde couldn't figure it out either. She could only assume that the old headmaster had left some wealth behind. But then again, how likely was that? The old headmaster had devoted nearly all his wealth to supporting the Academy and caring for the children. How could there be anything left, especially at Dragonscale Bank? Dragonscale Bank wasn't just any ordinary bank. Usually, the Academy dealt with monostone credit, a service that allowed borrowing monostones on loan. Dragonscale Bank, however, was different. They only dealt in high-value treasures. If it wasn't something particularly valuable, only enormous quantities of monostones, far beyond what most people could imagine, would qualify for Dragonscale Bank's services. Before long, the carriage arrived at the entrance to Dragonscale Bank. The rundown carriage, bearing the Crossbridge Academy emblem, instantly drew a lot of attention. Upon seeing the Academy's crest, the initial looks of surprise turned into silent ridicule. The useless headmaster. The impoverished Academy. These were the stereotypes people in Riverside City had of Crossbridge Academy. A doorman immediately went to notify the bank manager. "Headmaster Daniel of Crossbridge Academy? What's he doing here?" The beautiful female manager paused for a moment, then decided to greet him personally. Perhaps the Academy was finally ready to sell off its last treasures. This could be a lucrative opportunity for her. "Headmaster Daniel, welcome," the manager said with a gracious smile. "A private room has been prepared for you on the second floor. Please follow me." Daniel nodded. He could see the calculation in her eyes, but that was just a merchant's instinct. The sharper they were, the easier the negotiation would be. "Headmaster, this is Miss Claire," Isolde introduced. Ms. Claire smiled warmly. Although she was young, as the manager of Dragon Scale Bank in this region, the wealth she controlled surpassed that of all the major powers in Riverside City combined. "Professor Daniel, are you here for a purchase or a deposit?" "I must apologize, the previous manager didn't leave complete records, and I couldn't find any transactions between your academy and the bank. If there's any oversight, I hope you'll forgive us." Daniel understood her implication. She was gently reminding him that Dragon Scale Bank's services were expensive and not to overestimate his purchasing power. It was a tactful way for merchants to protect the dignity of less wealthy customers. "There weren't any transactions before," Daniel nodded, stepping toward the back of the carriage, "but there will be now." With that, he opened the slot that secured the carriage's back panel. Whoosh! Thick as walnuts, as long as fingers, tens of thousands of shimmering, high-purity superior mana stones tumbled out, spilling onto the ground like water. Chapter 5. The entrance of Dragon Scale Bank was now covered with superior mana stones, a sight that most people would never see in their lifetime. Owning just one of these stones could last someone several generations. Isolde's eyes widened in disbelief, her mouth agape. Among the three of them, she was the most astonished. She had just driven a gold mine down the street. A small commotion immediately erupted outside Dragon Scale Bank. Who could ignore the sight of the ground being covered with superior mana stones? These rare treasures, highly valued even among mages, could not be faked. Ordinary people could easily identify their authenticity, and mages would be instantly drawn to the overwhelming mana contained within the stones. The only reason no one dared approach was due to the formidable reputation of Dragon Scale Bank. Though people noticed the commotion, no one dared to come closer, let alone attempt to steal anything. "Our academy has this many mana stones?" The old headmaster sure knew how to keep secrets. "Oh my god, I can barely breathe." Logistics Director Isolde was practically gasping, her face flushed red with excitement. She couldn't have been happier. This immense wealth was enough to completely transform the academy. Truth be told, she had never seen so many superior mana stones in her life. And what had spilled out was only a portion of what the carriage held. There must have been over 1,000 stones already. The total number of superior mana stones in the carriage likely exceeded 10,000. Even in the magical world, ordinary people rarely had access to mana stones. The wealthiest merchants among non-mages might spend their entire fortunes just to acquire some low-grade, fragmented mana stones to pass down as family heirlooms. Only the best quality fragments could be exchanged for the lowest-tier mana stones in the magical world, inferior mana stones. It would take 1,000 top-tier inferior mana stones, those with no mana depletion, to be exchanged for a single intermediate mana stone. And even then, it would depend on the market price. During the old headmaster's time, the academy consumed about 1,000 intermediate mana stones each year, roughly equivalent to 1 million inferior mana stones. This was just to keep the academy afloat. As for exchanging intermediate mana stones for superior ones, it was nearly impossible. Even with thousands or tens of thousands of intermediate mana stones, there was no guarantee you could acquire a single superior mana stone. For most mages, intermediate mana stones were the highest tier stones they could obtain through conventional means. Only in the largest transactions or among the wealthiest mages did superior mana stones come into play. Now, with a carriage loaded with over 10,000 superior mana stones, the scale of wealth was unimaginable. Isolde's eyes filled with tears. This is incredible. The students will never have to worry about lacking study materials again, and the teachers won't have to keep reusing the same mana stones. Headmaster, I suddenly feel like our academy has hope. Like anyone who had gone from rags to riches, Isolde was overwhelmed by emotions. Claire, noticing this, kindly suggested, "Headmaster Daniel, perhaps Miss Isolde should rest for a moment." Daniel nodded. Two young attendants immediately stepped forward, ready to assist Isolde inside. "No, Headmaster, I don't need to rest," Isolde insisted. "I'll stay here to watch over the mana stones. I don't want anyone to steal them." "At least have some calming tea," Claire offered, instructing someone to bring over a cup of soothing red tea. Once it was taken care of, Claire turned back to Daniel, her attitude now much more respectful. Anyone who could produce such an enormous fortune was a VIP, no matter where they went. "Headmaster Daniel, would you like to store these mana stones in the vault? If you deposit them with mana stone credit, the annual interest income would be quite substantial," Claire advised, "but the security wouldn't match that of storing them directly in our vault." Claire's professionalism pleased Daniel. "I won't be storing them. I am here to shop," Daniel replied, revealing the true purpose of his visit. "Wherever there's a dragon scale bank, there's always a silver scale store nearby. I am here to purchase supplies for the academy. Miss Claire, I'd like you to recommend some suitable items." It would be my honor to assist you, Claire said with a smile. Please, follow me. As they walked, Claire introduced the store's offerings. Silver Scale Store is an extension of Dragon Scale Bank. We stock a wide variety of materials, treasures, gems, weapons, magical equipment, potions, and more. Many of our basic magical items are perfect for student use, and we also have tools specifically for teachers. Claire's recommendations were professional, and she didn't just suggest the most expensive items. Isolde's eyes sparkled as she listened. So many incredible items. There were even things she had never seen before. Although she was the logistics director of a magical academy, this was the first time she had the chance to enter a store like Silver Scale. In the past, Crossbridge Academy's budget had been so tight that they had no dealings with such a wealthy establishment. She had always had to shop at cheaper second-hand markets. But today, things would be different. As the three of them entered the Silver Scale Store, the bank staff and guards immediately began collecting and securing the mana stones outside. As one of the most renowned banks on the continent, Dragon Scale's reputation was built on trust. Daniel knew they wouldn't tamper with the count. Silver Scale Store truly lived up to its reputation as a massive marketplace. Upon entering, Isolde felt overwhelmed by the sheer variety of choices. She was so dazzled that Daniel had to call her name twice before she snapped out of it. Huh? What is it, Headmaster? Tell Miss Claire everything we need, Daniel instructed. There's a lot to buy, so don't miss anything. He was about to get very busy and wouldn't have time to handle such details. Isolde quickly nodded and looked around again. The vast expanse of Silver Scale's first floor seemed to stretch endlessly. Everywhere she looked, there were countless magical tools, alchemy equipment, spell books, and rare materials like magical metals and enchanted creature components. The academy might need a large supply of alchemical materials or perhaps finished magical items. And, if possible, we should check what magical books Silver Scale Store has in stock. As for basic magical metals and enchanted creature materials, we'll need to stockpile those as well. Isolde carefully listed the academy's most urgent needs, casting a cautious glance at Daniel. She worried that she might be overreaching. After all, the academy had only just come into such a windfall. What if spending too much made the headmaster unhappy? Even though Daniel had somehow acquired a carriage full of precious superior mana stones, Isolde still felt responsible for managing the academy's wealth prudently. After all, the academy had to keep running, and it was better to be cautious with spending. Buy it all, Daniel said calmly. Quality first, don't worry about the cost. His tone was so casual, as if spending an entire carriage of mana stones was no big deal. To Daniel, time was the most valuable resource. Mana stones didn't matter at all. After all, his supply of mana stones was practically limitless. Rest assured, Claire said earnestly. Quality is our top priority, and we take pride in our reputation. We won't inflate the prices unnecessarily. However, due to the size of Riverside City, the highest tier items we stock here are level C. Headmaster Daniel, if you have the time, I can show you a selection of our finest level C items to personally choose from. That's fine, Daniel nodded. He needed some high-quality magical items for his next plans. With Claire's guidance, a variety of level C items were soon brought before them. Neatly folded parchment sheets, each one a magic scroll ready to be activated. Wands of various lengths, adorned with gemstones, all crafted by renowned artisans into mid to high tier staffs. Refined magical metals, glowing with different colors and producing crisp sounds as they clink together, were brought in by the cartload. Animal belts, rare and strange creature parts, all of which were carefully carried on trays by staff members and placed in front of Daniel. Isolde's eyes darted around, unsure where to look first. Chapter 6, Claire was confident. The treasures within Silver Scale Store were not the highest quality in the world, but for a small city like Riverside, they were more than sufficient. For use in an academy, they were even overqualified. Do you see anything here that pleases you? Claire asked, thoughtfully. No, Daniel's response made her expression shift slightly. This isn't what I was expecting. Daniel didn't touch the exquisite furs. He didn't glance at the finely crafted staffs, nor did he even acknowledge the magic scrolls. Too mediocre. A complete waste of time. Daniel's words brought a bead of sweat to Claire's forehead. Not satisfied? She asked, her voice uneasy. She hadn't been exaggerating earlier. For a small town like Riverside City, level C quality treasures were already considered high-end. If it weren't for the city's proximity to the Mist River and the potential opening of the realm, neither Dragon Scale Bank nor Silver Scale Store would have even bothered to set up branches here. These were the finest items Riverside City had to offer, and Daniel's attitude made it clear he was genuinely unimpressed. Claire looked troubled. Professor Daniel, please forgive me. I didn't mean to offend you. These are the best items within our budget. She gestured toward the items her staff had carefully brought forward, the staffs, scrolls, and various magical tools. Anything higher tier than these would be. Forget the budget, Daniel interrupted. I need truly high-quality items. With one sentence, Claire's further explanations were cut off. At that moment, her assistant handed her the detailed report of the mana stone count from Daniel's carriage. A total of 23,000 superior mana stones. It was, undeniably, a significant sum of wealth. Initially, Claire had assumed that Crossbridge Academy was struggling financially and that this might be their last stash of savings, so she had tried to help them conserve funds. That's why she had chosen these particular treasures, balancing quality with cost to avoid draining Daniel's resources all at once. But now, since the client had made his demands clear, Claire had no choice but to comply. Bring out the finest treasures from our vault for Mr. Daniel to choose from. Bring all of them. This time, the process was quicker, as the more precious items were fewer in number. Several staff members carefully brought out a few treasures, treating them with great reverence. Claire stepped forward to personally introduce them. Here, we have the Windwalker boots. They are as light as a feather, allowing the wearer to walk on wind and cast a weaker version of Wind Step, a high-tier spell, with minimal mana consumption. Over here is the Green Crystal Oak Staff. It's particularly suited for spells that harness natural forces. If you're considering shifting to druidic magic or gifting it to a friend who practices natural magic, this would be the ideal staff. And here, we have the Chronicles of the Elements, written by Tier Grandmaster Archmage Elrian. It contains not only foundational and advanced elemental spells but also detailed accounts of various mages' experiences with these spells, as well as the evolution of casting techniques over the years. It's a priceless magical tome. And finally, Claire unveiled a long box covered with red cloth. This is the Knight's Sword, once wielded by Paladin Fernandez. According to legend, it possesses the ability to guide one onto the path of knighthood. The higher tier items you asked for, Claire said, gesturing toward the displayed treasures, are right here. The magical items were impressive, but Daniel's attention was drawn to the Knight's Sword. Unlike him, his daughter Rose seemed inclined to follow the path of a knight. Daniel wanted to give her a gift. Even if she lacked the talent, she would have the finest equipment. With him by her side, her future would be nothing but bright. Good. Daniel was about to nod when Isolde suddenly spoke up. Wait a moment. Without giving Daniel a chance to ask why, Isolde turned to Claire. What about the prices for these items? Her eyes were full of concern. These treasures looked incredibly expensive. Could the headmaster really afford them? It was better to ask first to avoid embarrassment later. These Windwalker boots can be used by a tier bronze novice mage to cast a near-advanced spell with low mana consumption. The price is 200 high-quality superior mana stones. This was the most favorable internal price Claire could offer. She had always been considerate of her customers, which earned her many returning clients. Even in dealing with the struggling Crossbridge Academy, she had shown no negligence. Isolde, accustomed to dealing with inferior mana stones, quickly did the math. Based on what she knew about the current exchange rates, one superior mana stone could be exchanged for at least 100,000 intermediate mana stones, and each intermediate mana stone could easily fetch 1,000 inferior mana stones, even in a poor market. So, 200 superior mana stones would be equivalent to 20 billion inferior mana stones. Isolde's eyes fluttered shut as she felt a wave of dizziness. Boots worth 20 billion inferior mana stones? Such was the world of mages. It's no wonder there were so few high-tier mages. The sheer expense of it was unimaginable for most people. Superior mana stones were typically reserved for large-scale, nation-level trade. This was no joke. Even without converting, 200 superior mana stones were no small sum. Claire moved on to the next item. This green crystal oak staff is slightly more expensive than the Windwalker boots. The price is 1,000 superior mana stones. 1,000 superior mana stones. Those words had never strung together in Isolde's mind before. She felt as though the woman in front of her was casting some kind of spell on her, making her feel faint and dizzy again. Thank goodness she hadn't visited Silver Scale Store before today. The items were amazing, but the prices were staggering. And how much for the magic book? Isolde asked, struggling to stay conscious. The Chronicles of the Elements is one of our finest level C treasures. To be honest, if you hadn't come today, we were planning to upgrade it to level B. The book's price was 10,000 superior mana stones. Isolde felt like the world was spinning, and she could no longer find the words to speak. And the price of the Knight's Sword? Daniel, however, seemed unaffected by the astronomical prices. He inquired about the items as casually as if he were asking about vegetables at the market. Claire replied, the Knight's Sword is in the same class as the magic book, and considering its legendary status, it's valued even higher. If you want both, We'll give you a special price, 20,000 superior mana stones for the two. For Daniel, the quality of the knight's sword wasn't the best or even good. But for his beginner daughter, Rose, it was passable. This was about the limit of what the store had to offer, and Daniel was mildly satisfied, giving a slight nod. And what about something better? Claire was taken aback. The items she had just listed, along with their prices, would nearly exhaust the superior mana stones Daniel had brought. If she hadn't offered such generous discounts, his supply wouldn't have been enough. Was Daniel planning to take out a loan to purchase even higher tier items? I'm sorry, but loans carry very high interest, Claire gently warned. You'd end up at a disadvantage. It might be better to wait until something suitable comes in. I'll reserve it for you. These items are fine. Daniel acknowledged that Silver Scale Store's offerings weren't without merit. The magic book, the magical tools, and the staffs would all be useful for the academy. But if this is truly the best Dragon Scale Bank has to offer, I have to say, I'm disappointed. Daniel made no effort to hide his dissatisfaction as he shook his head. Don't tell me, this is your limit. Miss Claire, I want to see something truly impressive. Chapter 7, Headmaster, please reconsider. Logistics Director Isolde grabbed Daniel's arm, her face filled with sincere concern. It wasn't just about maintaining the Academy's daily operations after this shopping spree. The cost of angering Dragon Scale Bank would be far more than their small academy could bear. Miss Claire sighed. I'm sorry, Professor Daniel. Dragon Scale Bank does indeed have one very powerful treasure, but it far exceeds the amount of mana stones you brought today. She thought she hadn't been clear enough before, leading Daniel to overestimate his purchasing power. Just one of these treasures would use up most of your mana stones, leaving little room for other necessary academy supplies. From what I hear from Mrs. Olga, your academy is in need of many items. Perhaps you could wait until the academy's situation improves before purchasing. I will keep that treasure reserved for you, Claire sincerely suggested. Daniel appreciated her honesty, and he decided not to tease her any longer. He simply pulled out an item from his pocket. Claire continued her explanation, but suddenly, her voice came to an abrupt halt. She froze, her eyes widening as they fixated on the object Daniel was casually tossing in his hand. Miss Claire, please don't zone out. I still need to continue shopping, Daniel reminded her. Stammering, Claire replied, apologies, but is that what I think it is? A small trinket, Daniel said, placing the item on the table. It was a stone, similar in size to the superior mana stones scattered earlier, but it had a deeper, more restrained glow, with no external radiance. That's a pure mana stone. Claire's voice trembled with excitement, and a flush appeared on her face. If superior mana stones were used for large transactions and high-tier magic, often considered currency for purchasing rare treasures, then pure mana stones. Their very existence was a rare treasure. In addition to containing an immense amount of mana, pure mana stones allowed mages at the tier Grandmaster level or higher to absorb ambient magical energy with unparalleled efficiency. Moreover, casting spells using the mana from a pure mana stone was sometimes even more fluid and powerful than using mana directly from one's own body, an advantage that couldn't be overstated. In mage families that had been around for centuries, pure mana stones were ranked among the most prized heirlooms, true family treasures. The phrase priceless was no exaggeration when it came to such an item. One pure mana stone could easily purchase an entire small city in a remote region of a weaker continent. A pure mana stone? Claire's outburst snapped Isolde out of her daze, helping her realize just what sort of treasure their headmaster had in his hands. Unlike Claire, who had some understanding of pure mana stones, Isolde had only heard about such treasures in legends and myths. For people like her, small-town elites or local powers, this was akin to witnessing a legend come to life. The shock left the logistics director rooted in place. Where's the rest? Daniel tapped the table. Claire snapped back to attention and immediately gave orders to her staff, bring the best treasures from the deepest vault. She treated Daniel with newfound respect. Many people could come up with large amounts of mana stones, but someone who could casually toss a pure mana stone like it was a toy? That was exceedingly rare. It seems Dragon Scale Bank is very interested in pure mana stones? Daniel asked. Yes, Claire answered truthfully. It's not just Dragon Scale Bank, any mage would value a pure mana stone highly. Such treasures had no threshold or limitations, they could be used by anyone and were valuable for nearly all magical research or combat purposes. Pure mana stones weren't just treasures, they were treasures you could never have too many of, true strategic resources, even for Dragon Scale Bank. Even in a small place like Riverside City, Claire, as a manager, knew that this pure mana stone might be her ticket to a promotion within the bank's system. Out of the countless vault managers across Dragon Scale Bank's branches in major and minor cities, few ever encountered such an opportunity. Claire knew she had to seize this chance. Soon, 2 more items were brought from the vault. One was a dull, gray staff. The other was a crystal clear green orb. Upon seeing the staff, Daniel asked, "What's this?" "Oh, my apologies." Claire seemed surprised. "I didn't mean for this item to be brought out. Mr. Daniel, I'm truly sorry, this staff is a defective product, completely unusable by any mage. I'm not sure which of my predecessors acquired it, but I've been meaning to dispose of it and simply forgot. I can't believe they brought it out." "Defective?" Daniel smiled slightly. "It's fine. Even if it can't be used, it'll make a nice decoration for the classroom wall. If you don't mind taking it, it's yours," Claire said, unfazed. The staff had no value whatsoever. They had tested it countless times, and it showed no mana fluctuations at all, nor could it be activated by any mana stones. It was, at best, a tree branch with decent aesthetics. Since Daniel had purchased so many items, Claire was happy to give it away as a freebie. Daniel casually tossed the staff onto the pile of selected items, further convincing Claire that he simply saw it as a free decorative piece. She then introduced the sparkling green orb. "This is an emerald protection magic array. It contains a defensive magic array cast by a tier master mage, perfect for protecting large buildings. If you place it in the center of your Crossbridge Academy, you can activate a protective shield around the entire academy." "That doesn't sound too special," Isolde remarked. "Our academy already has protective magic arrays." "Please let me finish," Claire said with a smile. "What's special about this magic array is that it works in conjunction with nearby plants. The more plants surrounding the academy, the more it absorbs trace amounts of plant energy every day. There's no limit to how much it can absorb, and this energy, in turn, promotes plant growth. If attacked, this stored energy will be unleashed as part of the academy's defenses. In other words, it's a magic array that strengthens itself daily. Even if its power diminishes during an attack, as long as plants are present, it will recover and grow stronger over time." In the ancient Greenleaf Kingdom, a similar crystal was used to withstand an abyssal demon invasion for over 100 days. Isolde was stunned. Unlimited growth, plant resonance, self-repair and enhancement, just those features alone made this orb extraordinary. She didn't even dare to imagine how much it would cost. "Perfect," Daniel said without hesitation. He had found what he truly needed. As he looked over the so-called treasures, he thought the knight's sword might be useful for his daughter Rose, and the rest of the supplies would be broadly useful for the academy. But for Daniel himself, what he truly needed wasn't the crystal orb, it was something else. To him, wealth, mana stones, meant nothing. In the Void Library, where he had read endless books and mastered boundless knowledge, these were mere side rewards. In fact, among his mana stone reserves, more than half were pure mana stones, and the rest were mostly high-grade ones. Medium-grade stones were scarce, and low-grade ones were non-existent. Very well. Even though Claire had done her best to remain composed, the sheer scale of the transaction was making her heart race. "This crystal is now yours, Headmaster Daniel." Claire reverently presented the treasure with both hands. But Daniel shook his head. "You misunderstood me." "Huh?" Claire was confused. "What I meant was, I want everything in your store, and all the remaining treasures in Dragon Scale Bank as well. I'll take it all." As a financially limitless adult, Daniel wasn't here to make choices. He was here to take everything. Chapter 8, Claire's mouth opened, but before she could say a word, Daniel made a slight gesture with his hand. 2 pure mana stones appeared on the table. The usually calm and composed Claire couldn't help but gasp in shock. "Is this a dream?" "I'll arrange to transport your goods immediately," Claire said, her voice trembling with excitement, her eyes glistening. "We'll provide free magical scrolls to carry ordinary items, and though we don't have magical chests for transporting priceless treasures, we will personally escort them to the academy. All of our tier gold mages, including myself, will participate in the escort to ensure your safe return to the academy, Professor Daniel." Daniel had now become an extremely important client for Dragon Scale Bank. Claire had to ensure, by any means necessary, that he was completely satisfied. All the treasures stored in Dragon Scale Bank, along with everything in Silver Scale Store, were now essentially sold to Daniel. Transporting everything would take some time, and security was non-negotiable. No need for such trouble, Daniel gestured for everyone to step back. He snapped his fingers. A sudden gust of wind swirled around them, even knocking the experienced high-level mage Claire slightly off balance. When she regained her composure, she was astonished to see that all the resources and treasures, which had been stacked in multiple layers across nearly a quarter of the store's first floor, had vanished into thin air. What just happened? As a high-level mage who was just a step away from becoming a tier diamond mage, Claire stood wide-eyed, stunned. While Claire was still frozen in disbelief, Daniel had already taken his equally speechless and confused logistics director, Isolde, and left. On the way back, Daniel noticed Isolde struggling, clearly full of questions but unsure how to express them. "Speak freely," Daniel said. Indeed, Isolde's mind was racing with various thoughts and questions, all colliding and competing for attention. Finally, she decided to voice the most recent one that had surfaced. "Your wealth and your power. How did you?" Isolde stammered, gesturing with her hands as she tried to find the right words to articulate her confusion. Daniel had anticipated this. "You can think of it as part of the old headmaster's plan. You, as the logistics director, are part of that plan." A simple explanation, one that left plenty of room for imagination. This, ironically, made it feel even more plausible. Moments ago, Isolde had been dazed, still processing everything she had witnessed. But now, with her responsibilities brought up, she quickly pulled herself together, her expression firm as she said, "Don't worry, headmaster. Leave it to me, I won't let you down." This was exactly what Daniel liked. At Crossbridge Academy, there were no internal power struggles. After all, only with a united team could they achieve great things. Upon returning to the academy, most of the magical materials, tools, spell scrolls, and theory books were handed over to Isolde to organize and store properly. Daniel, on the other hand, returned to his room. He took out the staff that Claire had called a defective item. Defective? Not at all. Daniel ran his hand over the staff's surface, brushing away the dust to reveal its true form. While Claire couldn't identify its origins, Daniel's vast knowledge had allowed him to recognize it the moment he saw it. The Solace staff, also known as the Star Sun staff. This staff was incredibly rare, there was likely no other like it in the world. The unfortunate part is that powerful stellar mages who controlled celestial forces have long disappeared, which is why no mage can use it today. But even so, this Solace staff was still an exceptional tool for channeling other types of mana, making it a top-tier magic wand. The mana patterns within the staff unfolded clearly before Daniel's eyes, as if bowing in submission to a king. In some ways, simple humans were not as sensitive as magical artifacts or magical creatures. While Daniel's mana core engraving allowed him to carve magic patterns within his own body to forcefully improve his magical talent, it didn't do much to enhance his physical strength. Though Daniel's magical talent had been transformed through his vast knowledge of mana manipulation, his body remained weak. When harnessing vast amounts of mana, his physical form couldn't handle the strain. He still needed to rely on external tools. By absorbing and devouring magical artifacts, he could gradually strengthen his mana core and increase his body's capacity to withstand greater mana. This had been part of Daniel's plan from the beginning. His visit to Dragonscale Bank, aside from his extravagant shopping spree, was aimed at finding suitable magical tools to absorb and use to reinforce his mana core. And this Star Sun staff was perfect for him at this stage. Daniel stored the staff, deciding to use it at the first opportunity. Now, he was ready to check on Rose. In the backyard. Pa. Even before entering the gate, Daniel could hear his daughter's spirited shouts as she trained. Thud. Thud. The sounds of wooden training dummies and straw targets being struck followed. Father. You're back. Rose was practicing her swordsmanship. Like her father, the young girl had no significant talent for magic. But unlike him, she had chosen not to follow the mage's path. She was determined to become strong through hard work. She had to be strong. Only then could she protect her father and the academy. Rose loved her family, loved the atmosphere of the academy, and cherished the place she called home. The girl knew that after her grandfather, the powerful archmage who had kept the academy afloat, passed away, the academy's situation had become precarious. She had to work even harder. While other students were still asleep, she was already up training, and long after they had gone to bed, she continued her evening practice routines. All of this had not escaped Daniel's notice. Seeing Rose run over to him, a smile crept onto Daniel's face, a genuine smile, one even he didn't realize he had. The academy hasn't been able to hire a magic swordsman instructor, and you've been practicing basic swordsmanship on your own. I'll find you a suitable teacher soon. Father, that's not necessary. Rose quickly shook her head. Really, you don't need to worry about me. Even if I only practice the basics, it's fine. After all, even those who trained in basic swordsmanship became great figures like Paladin Fernandez. If I work hard, I should be able to. Rose's voice trailed off, her words cut short as her eyes widened. Her mouth hung slightly open, her wide eyes locked on what Daniel had just drawn from his robes, a massive knight's sword, nearly 180 centimeters in length, with a blade over 120 centimeters long, requiring both hands to wield. The sword was taller than Rose herself. Its blade was straight and unadorned, with a simple hilt wrapped in white cloth. No gemstones decorated it, just plain metal. Yet despite its simplicity, anyone with knowledge could see that this knight's sword was no ordinary weapon. This is Rose's eyes were glued to the sword. Daniel said, "This is my gift to you. But I've seen this sword somewhere before." Rose thought for a moment before suddenly letting out a scream. "This is the sword of Paladin Fernandez from the Chronicles of the Top 100 Knights. It looks exactly like it." No matter how mature or sensible she might be, Rose was still a young girl at heart. Ecstatic over such a gift and overwhelmed by the news, she could only scream in delight, throwing her arms around her beloved father in a tight hug. Chapter 9, Thank You, Father. Rose's eyes brimmed with excitement and tears. She held the legendary great sword of Paladin Fernandez, attempting to wield it. But after just 2 swings, she could no longer lift it. Undeterred, Rose clenched her small fists and said, "I must work harder. I won't let Father's trust in me be in vain. Tonight's goal is 1,000 sword swings before bed. I won't sleep until I'm done." Seeing the seriousness in his daughter's eyes, Daniel felt a wave of warmth. What a wonderful child. He knew from the moment he bought the great sword that Rose, with her current abilities, wouldn't be able to use it yet. On the way back, Daniel had already crafted a book specifically tailored to Rose's constitution. It would enhance her physical strength, speed, and power, while also gradually guiding her in swordsmanship. Daniel named the book Book of the Ever-Blooming Rose, embedding Rose's name and his blessings into it. "Father, did you write this?" Rose asked, astonished as she received the Book of the Ever-Blooming Rose, unable to believe her eyes when she saw the author's name. "Yes, my dear Rose." Daniel patted her head gently. "I hope you will be like a rose, beautiful, but with thorns." "Thank you, Father," Rose said, deeply moved, her heart filled with warmth. Daniel smiled slightly. The book to guide her was ready, but Rose's natural physique was still quite ordinary. Even if she trained hard, at best, she'd reach the level of a gold knight. But Rose has me as her father, Daniel thought, recalling the recently acquired Celeste staff. This top-tier staff, when dismantled, would yield star shards and dust of the sun, ingredients that, along with a few other materials, could transform a person's physique. Owen had originally intended to use it himself. But after inventorying the essence of sky he crafted, Daniel realized he had some left over, just enough for Rose. The decision was made. "Rose, keep practicing," Daniel instructed. "The path of a knight is full of hardship and sweat. Talent and persistence are equally important." "Yes," Rose replied, already following the methods outlined in the Book of the Ever-Blooming Rose. Her face was covered in sweat, and her hands were starting to tremble, but her eyes were full of determination, showing no signs of stopping. Satisfied, Daniel left. Dismantling the staff here would draw too much attention, especially with the recent assassination attempt and the valuable items he'd purchased. All this would surely attract unwanted eyes. Daniel wasn't afraid of anyone, but he didn't want unnecessary trouble that could harm his beloved students. A gray whirlwind engulfed Daniel, and he vanished from the academy without a sound. Far off in the desolate plains, the sky was perpetually overcast, with sunlight never breaking through the thick clouds. The ground was barren, littered with the bones and decaying corpses of fallen spell beasts. This was the Savage Land, the home of the spell beasts. A team of heavily armed mercenaries scoured the bones below. In this land, spell beasts frequently fought over scarce resources, and humans would often come in search of the remains, knowing that bones, fur, and meat could fetch a high price. If they were lucky enough to dig up a spell beast's heart, they could become rich overnight, forever changing their fate. Zzzzzzz. A loud crackling sound echoed through the sky. The mercenary team leader jerked his head up. Everyone saw it, lightning crackling across the clouds, huge bolts of energy coursing through the sky. The powerful energy was enough to scatter the clouds, revealing a misty moon and sparse stars. "What's going on?" the team leader gasped. "It looks like those stars are about to fall." "Do you see this? Captain, stop staring and run!" a team member shouted, dragging him as they bolted forward without looking back. The team leader finally noticed. The ground had begun to tremble. In the distance, a mass of blackness spread like a tide from the stone forest, expanding outward. Spellbeast rampage. The team leader inhaled sharply. "Everyone, retreat." He couldn't believe his luck. They had stumbled upon the terrifying stampede of spellbeasts, likely triggered by the strange phenomena in the sky. At that moment, Daniel, who was suspended in midair by the whirlwind, also noticed the stampeding spellbeasts in the distance. "Such violent, bloodthirsty energy," Daniel murmured, shaking his head. "I thought I'd chosen a remote location, yet here I am, witnessing a spellbeast rampage." He quickened his pace. The Celeste staff trembled violently. "Hurry up," Daniel grumbled. "I only need a few star shards, why is it taking so long?" Both lightning and wind were forms of mana. Daniel tapped into the knowledge he'd gained from the library, frantically modifying the flow of mana. The lightning grew more intense. It crackled through the clouds, resembling silver trees, a spectacle visible to all creatures across the savage land. More and more light descended from the sky. Finally, the light gathered in Daniel's hands, like fireflies floating in the air. Daniel carefully collected the precious materials into a special crystal vial. Not bad, even more than I expected. Daniel added a few ingredients and consumed the gathered star shards and dust of the Sunday. His body surged with vitality, flesh, skin, muscles, even his cells, all rapidly strengthening. His mana core began to spin. Daniel was pleased. He raised his hand to the sky, chanting an ancient incantation. The restless lightning finally found its release. With a sudden motion, the lightning shot toward Daniel's body. Boom. 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 The thunderous sounds overwhelmed even the spell-beast stampede, and for a moment, the surrounding light distorted. I return from the old ones, reborn. My will is order, my body the world. Daniel chanted the ultimate spell. This incantation was crafted from thousands of years of magical knowledge, merged with the magical grammar of this world, containing the terrifying power of order. When the lightning finally disappeared, Daniel opened his eyes. Flashes of lightning danced in them, and his entire body radiated an indescribable power. His mana core had grown immensely strong. Dear sage, Daniel smiled. Just one more step to godhood, but no rush. Having just returned from the void, he wanted to enjoy the lively, real world for a while. After all, he still had his beloved daughter and a bunch of students to care for, and Daniel truly loved the home-like atmosphere of Crossbridge Academy. No longer needing the whirlwind, Daniel hovered effortlessly. Around him, within a 500-meter radius, the land was unrecognizable, with massive craters revealing molten lava below, the result of the lightning's wrath. Stretching lazily, Daniel smiled. Not bad. Finally, I have a body that matches the knowledge in my mind. The previous owner of his body had been utterly useless, giving Daniel the frustrating sensation of a baby wielding a Gatling gun. He glanced at the approaching tide of spell beasts. The lightning had agitated them further. They were now more frenzied than ever. Looking at the massive swarm of spell beasts, Daniel frowned slightly. If these spell beasts suddenly appeared in a human world, the destruction would be unimaginable. The entire academy, no, the entire kingdom, could be reduced to ruins. Maybe I should consider revising the academy's policies to recruit more power. That way, when disaster truly strikes one day, we won't be completely powerless. Just then, Daniel sensed something. He turned sharply, his mind power sweeping across the land, stretching for thousands of miles to a distant stone forest. It was a grim, stone-filled expanse covering nearly 10,000 miles, a true land of death. Daniel's mind power was idly wandering when suddenly, an enormous surge of mind power shot out from deep within the stone forest, rushing toward him. This mind power seemed to be one with the entire forest, nearly equal to a fraction of Daniel's own formidable mind power. Incredibly powerful. After countless eons in the Void Library, Daniel's mind power had reached terrifying levels. Someone of this caliber exists in this world. When the mind power reached him, Daniel swiftly withdrew his own. He wasn't ready to deal with the world's top powers just yet. Another time. With a shrug, Daniel noted that the sun was already dipping low in the sky. Consuming the Celeste staff had taken far longer than he'd anticipated. It was time to head back. Far to the north of the stone forest, a multitude of crimson eyes opened. From afar, these eyes formed a massive, singular eye, a gaze so powerful that an ordinary human would go insane just from seeing it. Peering into the divine realm. Is it friend or foe? Another twist of fate, shrouded in mist. How much longer can we endure? Chapter 10. After returning to Crossbridge Academy, Daniel started to consider something else. The overwhelming spellbeast triad had left a deep impression on him. Although the academy is now on the right track, in times of peace, we need to foresee adversity. Relying solely on the current teachers is still not enough. Daniel immediately made a decision. He called for Rowan, the academic affairs officer. I need to hire a few capable teachers. Give me a list, Daniel instructed. Remember, character comes first, then strength. As for the cost, don't worry about it. Daniel had countless ways to enhance someone's strength, but poor character would come with the risk of betrayal. Rowan quickly returned with a list. It contained 3 names, along with their respective classes and tiers. Daniel was satisfied with the list. Not only could these 3 teach students, but they would also be an asset in times of danger. Without delay, Daniel headed into town, planning to visit the first person on the list, the 5-star apothecary and alchemist, Synapsis. The carriage stopped beside a pitch-black building, which was the store owned by the Synapsis family, specializing in selling various magic potions and alchemical items. The store had 3 floors, and the first floor, packed with life-related magic potions, was almost bursting at the seams. Daniel headed directly to the third floor. The shopkeeper, seeing him, was initially startled, but then quickly put on a flattering smile and walked over. "Honorable Headmaster Daniel, what can I assist you with today?" The news that the old fool Daniel from Crossbridge Academy had suddenly come into a fortune had already spread to every store in town. Everyone was hoping for a windfall like the one Silver Scale store had experienced. "I wish to see Synapsis," Daniel said. "I have a deal that he won't refuse." "Ah, you want to see the Grand Alchemist?" the shopkeeper said awkwardly. "But he's extremely busy. You can make an appointment now, and perhaps see him in 10 days. With a thud, Daniel casually tossed a pouch filled with mana stones onto the table. The unique glow of superior mana stones made the shopkeeper hold his breath. Swallowing nervously, he immediately changed his tune, saying, "I understand. I'll notify the Grand Alchemist right away." Daniel nodded slightly. Financial power was a form of strength. For small characters like this, there wasn't even a need to flex muscles. However, this was a small test Daniel had set for Synapsis. For a busy master of magic potions, if Synapsis came rushing for a mere bag of superior mana stones, it would only disappoint Daniel. Moments later, the shopkeeper returned, looking apologetic. "The Grand Alchemist said he's in the middle of potion preparations. He requests that you make an appointment in advance." "Apologies, but please take the mana stones with you." "Not bad," Daniel smiled slightly. In the next moment, he disappeared like a wisp of smoke, right before the shopkeeper's eyes. What just happened? The shopkeeper was dumbfounded. "I didn't even notice how he left." He broke into a cold sweat. Although he was a platinum tier mage, he couldn't even tell what magic Daniel had used to leave. What level was Daniel? Headmaster? Grandmaster? Or? The shopkeeper didn't dare think further. Cold sweat covered his forehead as he decided to warn all the staff to treat Daniel with utmost respect if they encountered him. Meanwhile, in a secret chamber, Synapsis, who was working on a potion, suddenly froze. A figure had appeared before him without warning. The mana around this person was so contained that it was almost undetectable, yet the moment he appeared, Synapsis felt an overwhelming sense of mystery. "Who are you?" Synapsis' expression changed. "I've set up 5 protective magic rays." "How did you get in?" "I just walked in." Daniel casually glanced around the lab. "Did you design this potion acceleration magic array yourself?" "Not bad, but it's too slow." He casually adjusted 2 runes. In the next moment, the speed of the magic array increased dramatically, boosting efficiency by 50%. Synapsis was stunned. This level of understanding of magic arrays far exceeded his own. "Whoever you are, leave immediately." Synapsis wasn't easy to deal with. Not only was he a 5-star apothecary, but he was also a diamond tier mage. He believed that in his own lab, even against a master tier mage, he had a fighting chance. "You're indeed skilled in potion making and alchemy," Daniel remarked. "It's perfect for testing your combat abilities." "Arrogant stranger. I will make you regret coming here today." Synapsis roared. This man had broken into his lab and was speaking down to him. Who did he think he was? Rays of magic arrays lit up, and in an instant, Daniel was engulfed in a sea of magic rays. Not only that, but a barrage of alchemical items rained down on Daniel: paralysis potions, sleep potions, magic suppression potions, all kinds of control-type potions appeared around him as if they were free. Synapsis had unleashed his full power. He was determined to teach this insolent intruder a harsh lesson. The next moment, Synapsis froze. He saw Daniel, trapped within the magic arrays, raise his head and give him a slight smile. What does that mean? Isn't he afraid? Could he have gone mad from fear? Before Synapsis could think further, Daniel casually snapped his fingers. The magic arrays were instantly altered. Switching from attack to self-destruction required only 3 adjustments to the runes. Sizzle. The magic arrays began to flicker erratically, and a second later, they all collapsed simultaneously. The explosion of energy was so intense that it blinded Synapsis, and everything, from alchemical items to magic potions, was reversed in an instant. They were all reduced to raw materials, blown across the room by the energy storm. "You!" Synapsis barely managed to utter a word before he was struck by the shockwave. Though he was a diamond tier mage, he couldn't even put up the fight and was knocked unconscious. He didn't know how long he had been out when he finally opened his eyes. Looking at the wreckage of his lab, he clutched his chest and coughed. "You won't die, but you'll feel terrible for a few days," Daniel's voice came from behind him. But for an apothecary, that shouldn't be an issue. Hearing this voice sent a chill down Synapsis' spine. The other party was far too powerful. With just a flick of his finger, he had effortlessly destroyed his strongest defense. In the face of such a person, even the proud Synapsis couldn't help but lower his head. "Sir, What do you want? Synapsis asked cautiously. Is it a mysterious potion you need, or perhaps an alchemical item? I want you, Daniel said, pulling out a contract. Synapsis' heart skipped a beat. He couldn't believe what he had just heard. What did that mean? Did this powerful stranger have special preferences? I am Daniel, headmaster of Crossbridge Academy. Sign this magical contract, and you'll become a teacher at the academy, Daniel explained. You'll be free to conduct your research when not teaching, but in case of an attack, you'll be required to help defend the academy. Synapsis breathed a sigh of relief. He even felt a little grateful. Compared to making hemorrhoid potions every day, being a teacher seemed like a far better option. After a quick check to make sure the contract wasn't a trap, he signed his name without hesitation. Aren't you afraid I'll treat you like a slave? Daniel asked, satisfied with his quick decision. Your wisdom and strength far exceed mine. Even without a contract, if you wanted to enslave me, it would be easy, Synapsis said respectfully. The contract actually protects me. Daniel chuckled. He enjoyed talking with clever people. The academy offers excellent benefits for its teachers, Daniel continued. 100,000 intermediate mana stones. Synapsis was quite pleased with the compensation, which was about the same as his family's annual income. To his surprise, Daniel added, 100,000 intermediate mana stones per month. Plus a year-end bonus. You'll have 3 days off each month, and after 1 year, you'll receive 10 days of paid vacation. If you work for 3 years, you're free to resign or pursue further studies, and I won't stop you. Synapsis gasped. The offer was amazing. Daniel, with his wealth and power, was a boss not to be missed. I am honored to serve you. Synapsis immediately knelt on one knee and saluted Daniel in the mage's fashion. From now on, I shall be your loyal subordinate and employee. Chapter 11. It was a long time after Daniel left that the shop owner cautiously stepped inside. Master, are you really going to teach at Crossbridge Academy? He asked in confusion. But what about our potion business? Think long term, Synapsis said. If it's just me making potions with alchemy, we'll at most be considered wealthy. I have a feeling that following Mr. Daniel is the right path to our rise. The shop owner scratched his head. Is he really that powerful? But everyone says Daniel is. Shut up. Synapsis said sternly. Tell everyone, from now on, treat Mr. Daniel with the respect you would give a master. Do not let him feel even the slightest displeasure. He looked at the mess in the laboratory, feeling a chill of fear in his heart. Luckily, Mr. Daniel held back. Otherwise, he would be shattered into pieces, just like those magic rays. Meanwhile, Daniel was preparing to find 2 more suitable candidates. One was the 5-star artificer of magic items, Iron Hand Lindsay. The other was the 5-star master of magic arrays, One-Eyed Emily. According to the records, One-Eyed Emily is quite powerful but eccentric, living by the riverside on the outskirts of town. She's next. Daniel looked at the small grove in front of him. It was near the river, but there were no signs of anyone living there. Due to the scattered graves nearby, coupled with the crows circling overhead, any passerby would quickly leave the area. In such a gloomy setting, Daniel saw something different. What he saw was a cleverly designed, massive magic array. The graves were the thick-strewn stones. The circling crows were part of a transformation spell, ensuring the stability of the magic array. Not a bad design, Daniel remarked approvingly. No wonder people say she's eccentric. Using a magic array to deliberately keep people away is quite an interesting move. He took a step forward and immediately felt an invisible barrier. Rustling sounds filled the air. Shadows, like terrifying undead, appeared in his peripheral vision. Leave, quickly leave, this place is terrifying, a voice rang out, filled with strong psychological suggestion. At this point, even an ordinary mage would feel the urge to retreat. In this world, the unknown meant danger. Anything related to the undead or death usually meant double the risk. Very good, Daniel said, satisfied. Our academy needs someone like you. Come out, Miss Emily. I know you're watching me. I only respect the strong. The cawing crows in the sky turned into the voice of a woman. Daniel smiled faintly. He had to have this master of magic rays. Daniel said no more. He extended a finger and lightly tapped the air in front of him. In an instant, the runes of the magic array were altered. The array changed from concealing to revealing, and not only that, Daniel's powerful mind completely rewrote the magic array's essence. A breeze blew through. The previously eerie atmosphere vanished. The withered trees began to sprout leaves, flowers bloomed across the ground, the crows transformed into doves, and the graves turned into bushes laden with fruit. A young woman in a gray robe stood, wide-eyed, staring at Daniel. She was right in front of him. When the array was changed, her form was revealed. How did you do that? One-Eyed Emily's voice trembled. Not only did you break my magic array, But you reversed the entire environment. I spent 5 years perfecting this magic array. Who are you? If another mage had been present, they would have only thought Daniel was amazing, but only someone specialized in magic arrays would understand just how terrifying Daniel was. From the moment he moved to the moment the array changed. It took just 2 seconds. What kind of concept is that? Was this person in front of her a tier Grandmaster Mage? Facing such a powerful figure, even though he was smiling, one-eyed Emily dared not be careless. Her right hand rested on her left chest as she knelt slightly, giving Daniel the mage's gesture of submission. You know who I am, Daniel said. My Crossbridge Academy needs a new magic array instructor. You really are the headmaster of Crossbridge Academy, the one who's so wonderfully full of potential? She had just heard his request. But from his one move, she could already tell that this man was definitely not the useless Daniel. Everyone knew that if it weren't for Daniel having a good father and a few good teachers helping him, he would have been torn apart by the other two families long ago. The old Daniel was useless, but I am not, Daniel said calmly. Accept my invitation. He didn't need to say or else. Strength speaks for itself. One-eyed Emily had no choice. Yes, I accept, Emily sighed inwardly. What kind of contract is it? Servant contract or labor contract? As a wandering maid with no family, she had long been accustomed to the harsh realities of a world where the weak were preyed upon by the strong. Emily clenched the red crystal in her hand behind her back, ready to go down fighting if it was a slave contract or if Daniel crossed any lines. A contract floated before her. One-eyed Emily was stunned. An employment contract? She stared in disbelief at the contents. 100,000 intermediate mana stones per month, with a bonus at the end of the year, vacation time, and the ability to leave after 3 years? Every clause was beyond her expectations. The conditions were so good that she couldn't help but feel tempted. And there were no traps in the contract. This Daniel was genuinely hiring a teacher. Sorry for overthinking things, one-eyed Emily said. But as you can see, I specialize in linked magic arrays, which cost twice as much in materials as single arrays. That's not a problem, Daniel replied, flicking his wrist. A pile of mana stones appeared on the bare ground. The glow of the high-grade mana stones made Emily's eyes widen. She couldn't believe it. High-grade mana stones. Buy the materials you need. Classes start tomorrow, Daniel said. Submit your expenses once a month. All right. One-eyed Emily didn't hesitate any longer. She hurriedly signed her name on the contract, afraid that if she delayed, Mr. Daniel might change his mind. Employers as powerful and generous as him were harder to find than treasure troves. One-eyed Emily decided to start working on a teaching plan that night. She couldn't afford to disappoint Mr. Daniel. Daniel nodded at her, then headed for the last location. He left a subtle trace of his mind power on each of the teachers. No matter where they ran, Daniel would be able to sense them instantly. The last person on the list, the 5-star artificer of magical items, Iron Hand Lindsay. Just from the name, Daniel could tell that this person's ancestors had connections to dwarves, and Iron Hand lived in a more distant mining area. The area was close to a small volcano. After being modified by the crafting guild, it had been turned into an everlasting lava forge, and it became a gathering place for craftsmen from nearby towns. As soon as he entered, the sound of clanging metal filled the air. The shops lining the streets mostly sold weapons and armor. Whether for commoners, mages, or knights, anyone could find suitable equipment. Iron Hand's shop was a bit hard to find, tucked away in a more secluded area. The moment Daniel was spotted, the apprentices eagerly swarmed around him, trying to sell their wares. Sir, our master's weapons and armor are all magic items. Affordable and beautiful, you should definitely take a look. Daniel nodded. I'm here to see Iron Hand. Right away. We'll call the master. Iron Hand Lindsay was a stout middle-aged man, a bit short, with a full beard, just the image one would expect of a dwarf descendant. As soon as he saw Daniel, Iron Hand immediately said, I accept. Now it was Daniel's turn to be a little surprised. He hadn't even said anything yet. Daniel, right? Haha, I used to deliver equipment to Crossbridge Academy all the time when your father was alive, Iron Hand said warmly, bowing to Daniel. I heard your academy lost all its teachers. You're definitely here to recruit me. Let's go right now, haha, I'm more than willing. Such an eager response made Daniel pause. He hadn't even mentioned the terms, and this guy was already eager to leave with him. Something was definitely up. Chapter 12. It wasn't just Iron Hand Lindsay who was in a hurry, his group of apprentice blacksmiths were even more frantic. They quickly began packing up. In a few minutes, they had gathered a large pile of belongings. Mr. Iron Hand, is there something you're not telling me? Daniel blocked his way. Are you in debt or being chased? Haha, how did you know? Iron Hand Lindsay scratched his thick hair. My shop's location is too remote, and customers are few. Before I realized it, I'd fallen behind on the rent. How long have you been behind? Haha, not too long, only 3 years, Iron Hand Lindsay said. I'm selling myself to you now, earning a bit of a wage to pay the rent, so my students won't end up homeless. Daniel had initially thought it was a case of a ruthless landlord. But now it seemed that if the landlord had let him delay for 3 years, they were already a very kind person. Iron Hand Lindsay said awkwardly, I heard from some friends in the city that you've been quite generous lately, Daniel. Could I possibly get an advance on my salary? Sure, Daniel replied. But you're a 5-star blacksmith, and any one of your items would sell for a decent price. Your muscles show you're not lazy, so why are your finances in such bad shape? He needed to be sure that Lindsay didn't have any bad habits. In any world, Daniel had zero tolerance for gambling or drugs. It costs a lot of money to train a skilled blacksmith, Iron Hand Lindsay admitted without hesitation. The materials my students use each month are a massive expense. Why not sell some of the items your students make? That could at least help offset some of the costs. No way. Iron Hand Lindsay said seriously. My students are only allowed to sell items once they've successfully become 3-star blacksmiths. Every item bears a blacksmith's mark. The higher the quality of their first item, the better their future items will sell, ensuring their livelihood later on. They're all orphans or wanderers I've taken in. This craft will be their only means of survival. Daniel nodded. He hadn't expected that beneath Iron Hand Lindsay's rough exterior was such a thoughtful and caring heart. A man like this, Daniel was sure, would never betray him once he joined Crossbridge Academy. Here's the employment contract, Daniel said. All your students can join Crossbridge Academy. The academy will provide all the materials the students need. Iron Hand Lindsay was stunned. He stammered, is that really possible? If they could enter Crossbridge Academy, not only would they gain more knowledge, but they'd also save a lot on expenses. It's possible. Those who wish to join can register at the Academic Affairs office tomorrow, Daniel said. Of course, after joining the academy's interests must always come first. I don't want to see any small factions forming. I promise. Iron Hand Lindsay thumped his chest, sparking a bit of electricity. Daniel, Iron Hand Lindsay, and all my students will be part of Crossbridge Academy from now on. Anyone who dares bully Crossbridge Academy, no matter who it is, will smash them into iron slag and melt them down. Daniel laughed. This straightforward half-dwarf was quite amusing. Now that the academy had resources and its main teachers were found, it would soon be rejuvenated. Daniel was very satisfied. Meanwhile, Mrs. Olga, the logistics director, was overwhelmed with worry. In front of her was a large stack of various invoices. She was used to facing such situations in the past, but back then, the desk was piled high with overdue bills and debt notices. Now, however, it was lists of various items. High-level training dummies, potions to enhance mana recovery, crystals to boost mana perception. Too many things, too many good things. Mrs. Olga fretted. Daniel had cleared out both Dragon Scale Bank and Silver Scale Store, buying an enormous amount of goods, far beyond what the current students could use. Even if they were equipped from head to toe, there would still be plenty left in stock. What troubled her even more was that Daniel gave her a budget of 1 million mana stones per month to buy consumables. I can't spend it all. It's impossible to spend it all. We could eat mana stones and drink magic spring water every day, and it still wouldn't use it all. Mrs. Olga let out a howl of happiness. She had never imagined in her life that she'd experience the trouble of having too much money. At the same time, she was secretly thrilled. With such a vast resource investment, it wouldn't take long for Crossbridge Academy to grow into something everyone could only look up to. When that time came, neither Moonstone Academy nor Whisperwind would be their match. It's all thanks to Daniel, Mrs. Olga took a deep breath. I must work hard. For the headmaster and for the future of the academy. The next day, Mrs. Olga was stunned as she looked at the 3 new teachers who had came to report. She had seen the list, but she hadn't expected Daniel to work so quickly. The 3 teachers were just as surprised when they saw each other. As well-known experts in Riverside City, they all knew each other's identities. Emily, you're here too? Iron Hand Lindsay said in surprise. Were you also shocked by Daniel's generosity and decided to join the academy? Yes, one-eyed Emily replied. Of course, Daniel's strength is also quite impressive. But Synapsis, why would you, a shut-in, come out to work? Hey, don't pretend, Synapsis said. I don't believe you two didn't get beaten. We didn't, they both said in unison. We respect Daniel from the bottom of our hearts. He would never hit us. Seeing their amused expressions, Synapses silently took out a bottle of vomit-inducing potion. Logistics Director Mrs. Solda quickly stepped between them, pulling out the school rules and reciting, "Teachers are not allowed to fight with each other. If you really want to, you can apply to Daniel and have a fair competition in the Academy's arena." At the mention of Daniel's name, the tension between the three instantly dissolved. They had just joined Crossbridge Academy and still wanted to make a good impression on Daniel. Mrs. Solda breathed a sigh of relief. She was very busy today. Not only did she need to arrange housing for the new teachers, but today was also the day Crossbridge Academy distributed mana stones. Students had already started lining up in the auditorium. Their student uniforms were a bit shabby, but everyone was in high spirits. Having grown up together, they were as close as real family. "I heard Daniel bought lots of new stuff. Maybe we'll each get a new mana stone this time." "Haha, no way. Even having 5 people share a mana stone for training is already pretty extravagant. But where did Daniel get the money? I heard there are dark mages in the southern swamp who buy kidneys and livers for a lot of money. Could he have sold a kidney for us? Wow, don't scare me like that. Headmaster, oh no, Headmaster." The students were talking about all sorts of things. They knew new supplies would be distributed today. While they were excited, they were also worried for Daniel. Their wildest hopes only went as far as owning a single inferior mana stone. So, when they saw the piles of glittering items inside the auditorium, they were completely dumbfounded. "Kids, don't rush," Mrs. Solda said excitedly. "These are the new supplies the headmaster has purchased for you all. New enchanted uniforms, cloaks, shoes, and each of you will get a new beginner's staff. Each of you will also receive 400 inferior mana stones per month, with more if you advance a tier. If it's not enough, you can apply for more anytime. Every day, you'll also get 1 mana cheese or jerky as a snack and a bottle of beginner mana potion. These were just the basic benefits. The rest would be distributed gradually." She thought the students would cheer with joy after hearing this. But instead, they were first shocked, then exchanged glances. Then, some of the younger ones began hugging each other and crying. "We're doomed. With so many good things being given out, Daniel really must have sold a kidney. Headmaster, no. We'd rather stay poor like before than have you sell yourself." Suddenly, the entire auditorium was filled with crying. Mrs. Solda was dumbfounded. What in the world were they saying? Who had started spreading such ridiculous rumors? She was both angry and amused, hurriedly explaining to the students, "Daniel just used the old headmaster's inheritance. He didn't sell anything. Please stop crying, really." Chapter 13. While Daniel was out, he had no idea about the small commotion that occurred during the distribution of supplies. Nor did he know that his image in the hearts of the students had elevated from respect to adoration. The sight of the rampaging spell beasts that day still bothered him. Daniel had invested a lot of energy into Crossbridge Academy. He regarded the school as his own property, and any threats that arose, he wanted to stamp out before they could grow. Even though the desolate plains were far from Riverside City, Daniel began patrolling in that direction. After making a full circuit, he found no trace of the spell beasts. Just as he was about to return, he heard several screams. The sound came from far away, and Daniel originally didn't intend to get involved. But then he heard the low growl of a spell beast, which caught his attention. Daniel's figure vanished from where he stood. In the next moment, he appeared on a hill a kilometer away. The ground below was shaking as a massive red turtle spell beast continuously pounded the earth. Nearby, several young people lay scattered on the ground. Among them were mages, knights, and Daniel also spotted an assassin holding a dagger and a priest radiating faint golden light. It was a well-rounded adventuring party. However, their equipment was tattered, suggesting they were just a group of friends out on a self-organized adventure. "Run." The knight in front wiped blood from the corner of his mouth and cursed, "Hurry up, my taunt is about to end, all of you, just run." "Brother." The priest struggled to muster even a little mana, but under the turtle spell beast's tremor attacks, she couldn't manage it. The assassin coughed twice, then drank a potion and suddenly turned invisible. "The moment Kent and I strike, the rest of you leave immediately, don't look back," the assassin's voice came from near the giant turtle spell beast. Cough. "You guys can split the mana stones I have hidden under my bed." This tragic scene made the other members of the team tear up. The mage gritted his teeth, grabbed the sobbing priest, and prepared to use his last bit of strength to teleport her away. Daniel, from his high vantage point, watched with great interest. What a passionate battle. What a touching display of friendship. Ah, youth. None of them noticed the figure in the sky. With death-defying resolve, the knight and assassin launched their final assault on the spell beast, charging at it. A hint of mockery flashed in the giant red turtle's eyes. Did these short-lived, bronze-tier humans think they could attack it? Dream on. It would crush these humans and slowly pulverize them into mush. The red turtle stretched its neck, preparing to unleash a deadly sonic attack. In the next instant, a single finger extended from the void. With a light flick, as if brushing away a small feather from his shoulder, Daniel effortlessly sent the turtle spell beast flying. With a thud, the massive body of the red turtle flipped several times in the air before crashing heavily to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust that made the adventurers squint. When the dust settled, they were shocked to see that the fearsome behemoth was lying motionless, its eyes wide open, and the mana within its body was dissipating. The group stood frozen in place, not daring to move. They couldn't even comprehend what had just happened. Only the mage, who had been standing farther back, saw what had occurred. She quickly rushed over with the priest in tow. "Someone just saved us. My apologies, honorable sir. Thank you for saving our ragtag mercenary squad. We're from Riverlight Town." Daniel, who had been about to leave, suddenly became interested when he heard the name of their squad. He descended from the sky. The team members immediately stepped forward and respectfully bowed to him. Their leader, the knight, was particularly shaken. He had glimpsed a finger flick the giant turtle away, but he thought it had been a hallucination before his death. Now he realized someone had indeed intervened. This man's power was terrifying. That turtle spell beast had been tier gold. Could this mage be a tier platinum, or even tier diamond figure? With that thought, the knight became even more respectful. "Are you an independent mercenary squad?" Daniel had watched their entire battle. Their willingness to risk their lives for their comrades, even sacrificing themselves to ensure others could escape, had left a deep impression on him. These young people, likely no older than 20, had potential. To Daniel, character was more important than strength. With him backing them, even a pig could be trained to become a king-tier spell beast. "Yes, honorable mage sir," the knight replied. "I'm Kent, captain of the Ragtag mercenary squad. Thank you for your help. Is there anything we can do to repay you?" Daniel nodded. Gratitude. Another good quality. Although there was an enormous gap in strength between them, and the mercenaries could not offer any real assistance, the desire to repay a favor was completely different from simply accepting help as their due. "I'm the headmaster of Crossbridge Academy in Riverside City." Daniel handed an academy badge to Kent. "If you're interested, you're welcome to join my academy. We value young people like you." Crossbridge Academy. The group was shocked. Their hometown was a small village some distance from Riverside City. To them, Riverside was a grand city. As for a specialized academy, that was a place they had never even dared to dream of. "Can we really go?" Kent carefully pocketed the badge. "Will the tuition be expensive? We might need to take on a few more tasks to save up the money." "It's free," Daniel smiled. "Your friendship is more valuable than mana stones." He snapped his fingers in the direction of the spell beast's corpse. The beast's body began to decay. Then, its essence condensed into a small red gem. "Set out as soon as you can, and be careful on the road." After leaving behind the spell beast's red gem and this bit of advice, Daniel disappeared as suddenly as he had arrived. "Wow!" The mage's eyes sparkled. "What a powerful figure. Is this what high-tier mages can do? Maybe I'll be able to do that one day too." "Don't let your guard down," Kent said, putting away the gem and looking around. "That fight made a lot of noise. We're all injured, so let's leave before anyone comes to take advantage." The group quickly suppressed their excitement at surviving and cleaned up their tracks before swiftly departing. They decided that as soon as they had recovered, they would head straight for Riverside City. If they could really join Crossbridge Academy, that would be incredible. Daniel had already gone far. The trace of his mind power left behind told him the mercenary squad's next steps. This reassured him that his decision was the right one. "They're a good squad," Daniel thought as he returned to the academy. Looking at his students, he realized something. Compared to those young mercenaries, the kids here lacked combat experience. They were too sheltered. This wouldn't do. Daniel didn't want to raise a group of delicate flowers in a greenhouse. He had high expectations for his students. Hard work can improve strength, but abilities only grow through real combat experience. Daniel began pondering how to organize a large-scale academy-wide training exercise. At that moment, an anxious-looking Isolde came to find him. "What's wrong? Are the mana stones all used up?" Daniel glanced at her and tossed over a large bag of mana stones. No. "Daniel, please stop giving me mana stones," Isolde jumped in surprise. "I'm losing sleep every night worrying about how to spend all this money. I'm here to report something else. I've received intelligence that strange lightning has been appearing along the northern border, near the desolate plains. The lightning is making the spell beasts restless, and there's a high chance it could trigger a spell beast surge." Daniel coughed awkwardly. That had been his doing. But it shouldn't have had much of an impact. Isolde continued, her face filled with concern. Many prophets are saying this is a sign of the world's end. There have already been a few spell beast sightings outside the border cities. Some have even shown up near nearby towns. Daniel, should we be preparing for this? The end of the world? That was a bit of an exaggeration, Daniel thought, but it seemed like a good opportunity to train his students. Chapter 14, Daniel, both House Lunastone and House Windwisper are taking action. They're preparing to send forces to support the border towns, Isolde said worriedly. This will expand the influence of their territories even further. Daniel understood her concern. Riverside City was jointly governed by several factions. This control extended not only to the city but also to the surrounding areas. The resources were limited. If one faction claimed more, the others would inevitably get less. Every action had repercussions on the balance of power in the region. It's a good opportunity, Daniel said. The kids at the academy are due for some real experience. You mean sending a few of the senior students? Isolde asked. Their abilities are decent. With protective spells and other equipment, they should manage. No, everyone goes, Daniel interrupted, shocking Isolde. You mean everyone? Even the younger ones? She stammered. Some of them can't even cast a fireball yet. So what? Daniel replied indifferently. We're only dealing with scattered spell beasts, not a full-on beast horde. The Academy's equipment will keep them safe. Even if they can't kill spell beasts, real combat will toughen their courage and resolve, he continued. Those cities have their own defense forces. Learning how to manage interpersonal relations is something they must also master. We're not a breeding ground for delicate flowers. I don't need greenhouse plants in my academy. Isolde froze. She had never thought this deeply about the situation before. But Daniel was right. We aren't short on mana stones, what we lack is talent, Daniel said, offering more insight. With people, we can expand. In the future, if you encounter talented young individuals, invite them to join the academy. Yes. Isolde admired Daniel's foresight. With such a headmaster, the academy's future was surely bright. News of Crossbridge Academy's full mobilization spread quickly. The reactions from the other two houses were mixed. The conservative House Lunastone believed Daniel had made a poor judgment call, while the more aggressive House Windwisper openly mocked him. That useless Daniel has gone mad. I heard he found some inheritance left by the old headmaster and spent it all in a frenzy, buying all sorts of things. Now he thinks he's invincible? Just wait. He's sending even the prettier stone brats. If something goes wrong, the entire Crossbridge Academy will be done for. I've said it before. Crossbridge Academy is doomed under Daniel's leadership. Almost everyone doubted Crossbridge Academy's actions, assuming it was Daniel's desperate attempt to regain influence after the old headmaster's death. They believed he was trying to earn a good reputation to attract more teachers to the academy. But the external noise didn't affect the students at Crossbridge Academy. In their eyes, Daniel was someone they trusted completely. Even the younger ones, though fearful, mustered up the courage to prepare for the mission, set to depart in 10 days. The academy was buzzing with excitement and anticipation, with talk of the upcoming support mission everywhere. Daniel was pleased with this development. It seemed that everyone had already passed the test of courage. Returning to his small courtyard, he took out a small amount of the remaining essence of sky, diluted it, and condensed it into a tiny blue crystal. Inside this crystal was a magic array, which Daniel had specifically modified for Rose. Entering the array would directly alter her constitution, raising her potential ceiling. As he approached Rose's room, ready to knock, he heard the sound of sobbing from within. What's going on? Rose was always so strong. Even when she was on the verge of collapsing from training, she never complained. Why was she crying alone today? Could something have upset her? I'm so useless, Rose sobbed, sounding utterly heartbroken. Everyone else can go fight the spell beasts, but I can't. Father will surely be disappointed in me. Daniel's heart stirred. He pushed open the door and walked inside. Rose was sitting with her shoes off, applying medicine to her ankle, which was severely swollen, a bad sprain, clearly. Beside her were several bottles of ointment, none of which contained a trace of mana. They were just ordinary salves for regular injuries. Father. You're back. Rose panicked, scrambling to hide the medicine. Why didn't you tell me you were injured? Daniel asked, slightly displeased. The academy has healing potions available. Why didn't you ask your teachers for one? Rose tensed up, lowering her head. I'm sorry, Father. I didn't want anyone to know I was hurt. As your daughter and the wielder of the night sword you gave me, I'm supposed to set an example for everyone. Not get injured so easily. I've been training 12 hours a day to get stronger. But I'm still so useless. So that's how it was. Daniel felt a mix of emotions. The original Daniel hadn't been capable of much, but he had a good daughter. Rose had gotten used to not worrying her father, so now she didn't dare tell Daniel when something was wrong. Rose, I'm your father, Daniel said gently. I'm the one person in this world you can always rely on and trust. From now on, no matter what happens, you can tell me. If you want to set an example for the other students, show them that getting injured is common and not something to be ashamed of. Trust in your companions and teachers. The right thing to do is to seek treatment promptly. Daniel's tone was soft, and Rose, who had been tense, suddenly relaxed. Seeing him pull out a healing potion, her eyes welled up with tears. Drink it, Daniel said. I'm not happy with your decision to hide this. I'm sorry, father. I promise this won't happen again. After drinking the healing potion, her ankle injury immediately improved. The swelling subsided, and the scrapes from her training vanished completely. You promised? Daniel shook his head. What you need is punishment. You're not going to participate in this support mission. Father. Rose cried out in alarm. But everyone else is going. If I don't go, everyone will think I'm a coward, that I'm avoiding danger just because I'm the headmaster's daughter. Please, father, let me go. Daniel looked at Rose and felt she had been reprimanded enough. Unless what? Rose's eyes lit up instantly. Father, I'll do anything as long as I can go with everyone. Then raise your strength to tier iron before the mission, Daniel said. Right now, you're only a pre-tier stone. You're too weak. You have 10 days. If you can do it, I'll let you go. Rose bit her lip. I'll do my best, father. Her attitude was good, but sheer determination wasn't enough. Daniel then took out the blue crystal containing the magic array. This is a magic array I created specifically for you to enhance your physique. But the process will be painful. Are you ready for that, Rose? Father, I'm ready. Rose said, her eyes filled with resolve. I want to get stronger. You always said that there's no gain without pain, and that every strong person has endured immense hardship to become unbreakable. Good, Daniel nodded. Blue light radiated from the crystal, transforming the room into what seemed like another dimension. Rose held her breath as she gazed at the intricate magic array before her. Her teachers had always said that the more complex a magic array was, the more powerful it would be, consuming vast amounts of resources. An array as mana-rich as this one must have cost a fortune. Father, how many mana stones does this cost? She asked in astonishment. It's cheap. Only a mere billion mana stones, hardly worth mentioning to Daniel. Go ahead, Rose. Once the magic array is activated, it cannot be stopped. You'll have to endure until the transformation is complete. Yes. Rose took a deep breath, then stepped into the magic array without hesitation. The next moment, she found herself unable to see her father anymore. All around her were countless mana stones, densely packed. Chapter 15, the mana stones emitted mana-like webs that wrapped around Rose. In the next instant, an overwhelming energy surged into her body. It was the diluted essence of sky. Rose opened her mouth, but couldn't even scream. Her body began its transformation, and even her mind was being tempered. Tears streamed down Rose's face as she gritted her teeth, enduring the pain. Every time she was on the verge of passing out, she silently reminded herself, this is a precious gift that father worked so hard to obtain. I can't let him down again. Rose, you can do this. Hold on. And so, every inch of her body was invaded and transformed by the essence of sky. Mana intertwined with every drop of her blood and every muscle fiber. Standing outside the magic array, Daniel watched everything unfold clearly. After about 3 hours, the glow of the magic array finally faded. Countless mana stones had been drained of their mana, losing their mysterious luster and turning to ash. Standing at the center of the magic array, Rose opened her eyes. Golden light flickered within them. Father, Rose lifted her head, her body now radiating a pure golden glow. I've grown stronger. I've understood knowledge I didn't before, and my body feels different. Very good, Daniel said. Now go outside and test your strength. He could tell immediately that Rose's potential had increased significantly. With proper training, she could at least reach tier Grandmaster. With the right materials to further enhance her physique, becoming a god one day wasn't out of the question. However, just because her potential had increased didn't mean she could relax. She was still only a pre-tier stone knight and needed rigorous training to fully realize the benefits she had just gained. Yes. Rose grabbed her Fernandez greatsword and was surprised to find that the once heavy weapon now felt just right, perhaps even a bit light. Ha! Rose raised the greatsword and swung it fiercely at the practice dummy she often used. Without using the knight's radiance she had just learned, she relied solely on her own strength. With a loud crash, the dummy was instantly split in half. Though it quickly regenerated, the result left Rose ecstatic. Father, did you see that? I actually managed to cut the dummy in half. Rose was overjoyed. Wow, at this rate, I'll definitely reach Tier Iron Knight within 10 days. Her eyes sparkled as she continued striking the magical dummy with enthusiasm. Daniel knew that this training dummy was designed for pre-tier stone knights, capable of withstanding damage up to the tier stone limit. As Rose had said, with a bit more improvement and the right opportunity, she could advance to the next tier. Seeing the dummy shattered and unable to regenerate in time, Daniel waved his hand, and 5 new dummies appeared in the yard. Use these for practice, Daniel said. These are tier gold magic dummies, specifically for attack training. The other 4 are attack dummies, a golden mage, golden assassin, golden knight, and golden hunter, to help you practice defense and basic combat skills. Wow! Rose's eyes lit up. She tried attacking the golden assassin dummy, but in the next second, before she could even see what happened, she was knocked to the ground. She jumped up immediately. Thank you, Father. These training dummies are amazing. They're just dummies. Their reactions can't compare to a real opponent, Daniel said. Now open the book of the ever-blooming rose I gave you and focus on improving yourself. Yes. Rose said earnestly. If she opened the book, she would be surprised to find that all the content had changed. Previously, due to her low strength, the book only contained basic information. But as her abilities improved, the book's content would grow more challenging. Daniel had written it himself, using his knowledge to create a book that could grow with its reader. Watching Rose practice diligently, Daniel returned to his own room. The original owner's room was simple, with no luxurious decorations. Perhaps to compensate for his lack of talent, the room was packed with books, everything from basic geography to distant secrets. There was almost nothing it didn't cover. Daniel casually flipped through the books. The original owner had been diligent, but his memory wasn't the best. Since Daniel planned to settle here, he needed to learn more about this world. He skimmed through the pages quickly. Riverside City, despite covering a large area with many surrounding towns and territories, wasn't even considered a third-tier city in the Free Federation. The Federation's most prosperous cities numbered 5 in total. Lake City, the third largest city in the Free Federation, renowned for its beautiful scenery, numerous lakes, and wealthy citizens, Daniel read from the book. Its commercial prosperity is unmatched. I think Lady Claire mentioned once that the Dragon Scale Bank headquarters is located there. I cleared out their inventory last time. I wonder when Lady Claire will restock. Daniel's supply of mana stones was nearly infinite. Sitting on them was a waste, only by exchanging them for treasures would they have real value. Eku. Lady Claire sneezed. She found it odd. With her physical constitution, how could she catch a cold? I've heard that when a tier sage thinks of someone, that person will have a slight reaction. Could it be that some important figure is looking for me to buy something? Lady Claire joked to herself. She was currently seated in the Dragon Scale Bank headquarters in Lake City. After selling out all the goods in Riverside City, Lady Claire had come here with high hopes. 1. To restock and find better treasures for Daniel. 2. To hopefully secure a promotion within the bank. Lady Claire, the chief steward will see you now. Confidently, Claire walked into the chief steward's office. The man was a slightly overweight middle-aged figure, wearing a necklace of colorful gemstones around his neck, his clothing emitting a faint golden shimmer. He looked incredibly opulent. Mr. Dick, good day, Claire greeted him politely and got straight to the point. I want a promotion. Chief Steward Dick hadn't yet responded when a disdainful laugh came from the side. You? Really? A sultry red-haired woman chuckled. Claire, you've been stuck in that small place, Riverside City, for 5 years without meeting the promotion requirements. If it weren't for Mr. Dick's generosity, you would have been demoted by now. Your abilities are so lacking that Mr. Dick was about to send me to take over your work in Riverside City. What? Lady Claire was shocked. This red-haired woman, Tina, had always had a poor relationship with her. She had even snatched several valuable items that were meant to be sold in Riverside City. If Tina really took over her work, Claire knew her future would be bleak. Moreover, Claire had just formed a partnership with a super client like Daniel. There was no way she'd let that go. I object, Claire argued logically. I just completed a transaction worth over 100 billion mana stones. According to the regulations, I should be promoted and granted expanded authority over Riverside City's Dragon Scale Bank. Ha ha ha, you must be joking, Tina laughed, covering her mouth. In that small place, how could anyone possibly afford that many mana stones at once? Claire, Dick, the chief steward, who had remained silent until now, spoke gravely. Falsifying sales figures is a serious offense and will be punished harshly. Claire knew that the relationship between these two was less than professional. She didn't bother arguing further and directly presented her magical ledger. Every transaction made at Dragon Scale Bank was recorded in this book. Using her authority, Claire hid Daniel's name and the items he purchased, but the others could still see the total sales amount. 187.2 billion mana stones. Tina exclaimed in shock. How is that possible? The magical ledger doesn't lie. Lady Claire stood tall. I formally request an immediate promotion. Dick's expression changed. Though he managed Lake City's Dragon Scale Bank and several nearby cities, any records in the magical ledger would also appear in the central records at the bank's headquarters. Promotions within Dragon Scale Bank were strict, but the process was transparent. With such a significant transaction, he would need a solid reason to oppose her promotion. I see, Dick said. You may go now. I will follow the regulations and process your promotion in a few days. He agreed so easily? Lady Claire felt suspicious, but kept her expression calm. After she left, Tina turned to Dick with dissatisfaction. Darling, are you really going to promote her? No. Dick sneered. You will head to Riverside City right now and find out who her recent big client is. With your abilities, I'm sure you can steal that mysterious customer. Chapter 16, Time flew by. Daniel had fully adapted to life in this world. Rose didn't disappoint him, she successfully advanced to a tier Iron Knight on the 8th day. Now, she had joined the rest of the Academy's students on their mission to support the border towns. With everyone gone, the Academy had grown very quiet. The 3 teachers Daniel had hired were too concerned about their students to stay behind, so they accompanied them. However, under Daniel's orders, they strictly adhered to the rule of only intervening if the students' lives were in serious danger. While everyone was away, Dean Rowan and Logistics Director Lady Isolde began upgrading the Academy's facilities. Desks, chairs, teaching tools, blackboards, and various large magical items were being replaced one by one. Every day, Daniel could see Crossbridge Academy transforming. The previous aura of decay had long since vanished, and now the Academy was clean, cozy, and gradually taking on the shape of a future super academy. Daniel had also fully grasped the knowledge and common sense of this world. This continent is entirely different from the Earth I knew in my previous life, Daniel mused. I'm even beginning to wonder if this place is spherical at all. The reason was simple, the landmass was simply too vast. Once, a tier Grandmaster Mage attempted to create a complete map of the entire continent. He used his flight magic to trace the continent's edges, recording his journey. After 10 years, he was shocked to find that there was still no end in sight. Undeterred, he continued exploring for another 30 years. The results were just as astonishing. In the end, he left behind a famous quote, "This is a world without borders." No matter how powerful a mortal's body, even a tier sage cannot glimpse the full expanse of the continent. Since then, everyone had accepted that the world had no borders. Even the most seasoned travelers only ventured within a handful of kingdoms, and no one dared to claim they had seen the entire world. However, being a magical world, people still managed to create a rough map of the world, even though they couldn't explore the boundaries. The continent was roughly divided into 5 regions, the Holy Empire, the Eternal Tribe, the Free Federation, the Lost Lands, and a vast expanse of islands collectively known as the Emerald Isles. Scattered throughout were countless smaller factions. Riverside City, where Daniel was currently located, was part of the Free Federation, a loose confederation of many cities that barely qualified as a nation. Riverside City was a subsidiary of Lake City, and if ever in danger, Lake City would provide protection. In exchange, however, Riverside City had to pay a hefty annual fee to Lake City. The relationships between cities are quite interesting, Daniel thought. It's not a bad system. Large cities can fall into decline, and small cities can rise. Whoever becomes the strongest with the greatest military power will have the final say. If Riverside City were to become the most powerful in the future, Lake City would become its subordinate. As for strength, the continent's tier and class system was clearly defined. There were 2 types of classes, ordinary and extraordinary. Every class had both types of practitioners. For example, there were regular maids and magical maids, regular chefs and magical chefs. The latter produced more exceptional results and earned much higher rewards. Professions like mages, priests, knights, and assassins typically focused on adventuring, mercenary work, or combat to earn a living. Tiers were divided into priestone, iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, grandmaster, and sage. Few ever reached beyond the sage tier, that was the domain of legendary gods. Daniel kept his power at the sage peak, meaning he was essentially invincible on the continent. But it's not just a legend, Daniel knew full well. There's something beyond the sage tier. If I wanted, I could break through at any moment. Last time, when I sensed that power beyond the stone forest, it was beyond the sage tier. It seems this continent isn't as simple as it appears. There are still many hidden mysteries. Daniel set down the book in his hand. He had already finished reading through the Academy's entire library. Unfortunately, the level of knowledge here wasn't sufficient to grant him access to the Void Library. He wasn't in a rush, though. Crossbridge Academy had only just gotten back on track. With Daniel at the helm, it was only a matter of time before the academy grew into a force to be reckoned with. "Daniel, the meeting is about to start," Rowan knocked on the door to remind him. "I'll be right there," Daniel nodded. Each month, the academy's management gathered for a meeting. Unlike the gloomy atmosphere of their first meeting, today every teacher appeared relaxed, smiles on their faces. "Daniel, the students are doing great," Rowan reported. "Mr. Synapsis, Iron Hand Lindsay, and Lady Emily have been sending updates every 3 days. The students of Crossbridge have already helped the border towns deal with 26 spell beasts. The border patrol is full of praise for them, and the local townspeople have warmly welcomed our students. Quite a few parents are now considering sending their children to the academy. Our financial situation is also excellent. While the spell beast attacks caused minor losses to the border merchants, the rewards earned by our students for defeating the spell beasts have completely covered those losses." Daniel smiled and said, "I sent them out for training, but I didn't expect them to start earning their own money already." The support mission had been a tremendous success. Not only did it provide valuable experience for the students and win them a good reputation, but it also sent a clear message to those in Riverside City who were still plotting against Daniel. Crossbridge Academy was no longer what it once was. At least, no one had made another attempt to assassinate Daniel. Daniel himself felt a little disappointed by that. "Headmaster, this is the Academy's expenditure report for the month," said Lady Isolde, the logistics director, as she handed over the Academy's specialized magical ledger. Her tone was filled with pride as she said, "We've saved 800 million mana stones compared to last month." "Saved?" Daniel asked. "Why are we saving money?" "I cut some unnecessary expenses," Lady Isolde explained. "For example, I replaced the magical street lamps with cheaper ones. They go out after 10 o'clock at night, and while the light is a bit dimmer, each lamp saves us 1,000 mana stones compared to the automatic, light-adjusting ones. And the dining utensils, we switched to regular ones. Replacing everything with magical items would have cost us an additional 3 million mana stones." Isolde continued to list her cost-saving measures, clearly proud of how much she had saved the academy. "Stop." Daniel knocked on the table. "Isolde, I don't doubt your abilities, but you need to work on something." "What's that?" she asked. "Your ability to spend money," Daniel said. "I understand that you want to save, but it's unnecessary. Our academy is going to become a top-tier institution, so we need to use the best of everything, as long as we aren't wasting resources. Cheap magical street lamps will cause students to trip and won't keep the blood-sucking mosquitoes away. Ordinary utensils require extra cleaning time and provide no benefits to magical food. Bedding and pajamas made from high-grade mono-patterned fabric keep students warm in winter and cool in summer. They also provide a calming effect and can alert them to nightmares. Ordinary fabric can't do any of that. Lady Isolde, from now on, I want you to shift your mindset. Prioritize the students. As long as the academy is strong, we won't need to worry about mana stones." Daniel's words left Isolde feeling ashamed. She hadn't realized that her well-intentioned savings weren't actually benefiting the students. "I'm sorry, Daniel," Isolde said, her face flushing red. "I wasn't thinking clearly. I'll be more careful in the future." "Then start by spending the entire budget I give you each month," Daniel said firmly. 50 billion mana stones per month, and I want it all spent. Show me the detailed accounts next month." "How am I supposed to spend that much money?" Isolde felt overwhelmed by the pressure. Aldrich and Rowan exchanged a glance, both of them smiling in relief. Other schools were worried about having too little funding. Their school was stressed because they had too much. If word got out, the rest of the academies in the Free Federation would be green with envy. With Daniel here, Crossbridge Academy is destined to become the greatest academy. Aldrich thought silently. His heart was full of hope, and he believed he could continue working for Daniel for at least another 50 years. Chapter 17, maybe it was because Lady Isolde's frustration was too obvious. Daniel gave her a small hint. Upgrade the school facilities, improve the quality of student supplies, and upgrade the food quality for students, Daniel said. If you really can't spend it all, go shopping. I think our academy is already Claire's favorite customer. Dragonscale Bank has many treasures. If you come across something valuable, buy it and store it in the school's collection. It'll come in handy eventually. If you find something truly precious, the budget I've given you won't be enough. You can come directly to me. Isolde nodded repeatedly, diligently jotting it all down in her notebook. She now admired Daniel deeply. However, Daniel seemed to have forgotten something. Apologies, I also wanted to shop at Dragonscale Bank, but when I went last week, the staff said they were out of stock. They said that after you bought everything last time, they haven't restocked since. Daniel shook his head. Such inefficiency. After all this time, they still hadn't restocked. It seemed that this world's service industry had a lot of room for improvement. Here's this month's budget. Daniel dropped 2 bags of mana stones. Give an extra 100 mana stones to each of the students who went on the support mission. This is a great opportunity for them to strengthen their abilities. Understood. Daniel's generosity earned him the admiration of several teachers. With such cost-free cultivation of students, once these little ones matured, they would be powerful whether they liked it or not. Who exactly is that mysterious big client? Lady Tina had been in Riverside City for some time now. She had been secretly tracking Claire, using Mr. Dick's connections to meet several influential people in the city. She initially suspected that the mysterious big client might be the Moonstone family or the House of Windwhisper. But after getting to know them, it didn't seem to be the case. It couldn't possibly be that nearly bankrupt Crossbridge Academy, could it? Tina found the thought so ridiculous that it made her laugh. She had no idea about the current state of the academy. According to her information, the academy's new headmaster was a iron failure. All the teachers had left, and the students were orphans, a poor and miserable place, through and through. She decided to focus on tracking Claire. Once she found out who the mysterious big client was, she was confident that her beauty and charm would help her win them over. Lady Tina, we have new information. An assassin in charge of surveillance brought the latest news. We've noticed that Claire used a magic scroll and disappeared in Garden Street. Ha! I knew it. Tina was thrilled. Let's go. To Garden Street. I'm going to find that mysterious big client. Meanwhile, in Garden Street, Daniel and Claire were chatting in a flower shop. What a peculiar place to do business, Daniel said. Why not trade at Dragonscale Bank? The surroundings here are more pleasant. Claire couldn't possibly tell him she was being followed. She didn't want to cause Daniel any displeasure, so she came up with another reason. I heard that Lady Isolde from Crossbridge Academy is planning to purchase a batch of deep green jasmine. This shop is where I prepared my gift for her. That's thoughtful, Daniel said with a slight smile. He could already imagine the outcry Isolde would make when she received such a large pile of flowers. Her hard-thought-out spending plan had been thwarted by someone gifting the flowers ahead of time. So, what about the new treasures? Daniel asked directly. They're all here. Claire produced a delicate golden box, intricately carved with a magic ray. Daniel immediately recognized it as a large spatial storage box. However, the contents left Daniel somewhat disappointed. They were similar to what he had purchased before. Although the categories were different, the highest grade treasure was only 3-star. I'll take everything, Daniel said. But I expect to see higher quality items. Whether it's raw materials, monochores, weapons, or consumables, the rarer, the better. Claire apologized. I'm terribly sorry. Since the Riverside City treasury was emptied last time, new items require assessment by Chief Steward Dick before they can be gradually released. These are the best I could secure. What a hassle, Daniel frowned. They didn't even know how to make money. This Dick fellow must not be too bright. Daniel, the total value of these items is 150 billion mana stones. However, since you're my valued customer, I can offer you a 20% discount, bringing it down to 120 billion mana stones. That's fine. Daniel readily paid. He didn't mind the mana stones, but he appreciated the attitude. It was rare to find a capable merchant who wasn't greedy. Thank you, Daniel. If you need anything, feel free to contact me directly, Claire said with even more respect. I'll do my best to get it done. Next time, just came to the academy, Daniel said. If I'm not there, talk to Lady Isolde. Understood. Claire breathed a sigh of relief. Success. Daniel was willing to work with her long term. With this transaction completed smoothly, her promotion was no longer in jeopardy. I'll continue to search for more treasures. Anything 3-star or higher, or even SS grade, is what I'm after. Claire took note of his requests seriously. She planned to make a trip to Lake City soon. If Chief Steward Dick continued to make excuses, she would bypass him and submit the request directly. After all, a straightforward customer like Daniel was a rare and high-value client. Daniel was busy. After finishing his business, his figure turned into a gray breeze and vanished. Claire was left speechless. What kind of power was this? She hadn't even sensed a trace of mana fluctuation. She resolved to be even more cautious around Daniel in the future. Not only was he a golden goose, but also a formidable expert. At that moment, the flower shop door suddenly opened. Hello there. I'm Tina from Dragonscale Bank. So nice to meet you. Tina, drenched in perfume and dressed in a luxurious magic robe with a high slit, strutted into the shop, exuding charm with her perfectly alluring makeup. Claire was speechless. Why are you the only one here? Tina asked in surprise. Where's that mysterious customer? Which customer? Claire asked. I'm here to buy flowers. Who were you talking to just now, Lady Tina? You weren't secretly following me, were you? You know the bank prohibits poaching clients. Tina glanced around and confirmed that the only person in the shop was Claire. Humphrey, I'm also here to buy flowers, she said, unwilling to directly violate the bank's rules. With that excuse, she left, though not without giving Claire a condescending glance. Hey, don't say I didn't warn you, no matter how much you sell, you won't get promoted. Thanks for the reminder, Claire replied with a slight smile. But Dragonscale Bank doesn't belong to you or Mr. Dick. Headquarters will decide my promotion. The two women exchanged a sharp look, the tension between them palpable. After Claire left, Tina's expression turned vicious. Promotion? Dream on. As long as I have Dick's support, you'll never get promoted. All this undercurrent of conflict, Daniel was unaware of. And even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Even that chief steward from Lake City was insignificant to Daniel. Today, Crossbridge Academy was filled with the scent of deep green jasmine. The deputy headmaster stood at the school gate with several teachers, eagerly awaiting. They're back. There they are, they said, spotting the returning students from afar. In the time they'd been away, the once immature students had undergone a complete transformation. They returned with confident smiles, their bodies stronger. Even the youngest children had a new determination in their eyes. They had ventured out, facing numerous dangers, not only battling fierce spell beasts but also engaging in all kinds of power struggles with other factions. It could be said that before they left, they were chicks. Now, they were fledgling eagles. The kids look amazing, Deputy Headmaster Aldrich marveled. Isn't that Rose leading them? She seems to have grown a lot taller. They say girls blossom when they grow up. Carrying her giant sword, Rose looked at the familiar academy, breathing a sigh of relief. Throughout the journey, she had fulfilled her duties, working hard to protect her fellow students. In every battle, she led the charge. Several times, she even came close to getting injured. These actions had earned her the respect of her classmates. In their eyes, she was no longer just the headmaster's daughter, she was truly Big Sister Rose. Chapter 18, Daniel stepped forward as well. The changes in the students were obvious, but what displeased him was that they were carrying quite a few injuries. Not only that, their maid robes and night uniforms were damaged, and Daniel even saw one student holding a sword broken in two. What happened? He looked at Lady Isolde. Isn't the academy supposed to have weekly reports on equipment replacements and distribution of healing potions? I have no idea. Lady Isolde was stunned. She had been distributing all kinds of supplies on time and in full. Seeing the students in such tattered conditions was beyond her expectations. The three teachers who had accompanied the group returned as well. Hearing Daniel's question, Iron Hand Lindsay laughed heartily. Daniel, these kids are just too frugal. You wouldn't believe it, they carry magic sewing kits with them and refuse to discard their torn maid robes. The young knights spent most of their time at the blacksmith shop in the border town, patching up and repairing their gear. If I didn't know they had monastones from the academy, I would have thought they were living in utter hardship. One-eyed Emily nodded in agreement. Yes, they truly know how to cherish things. None of them waste a single monostone. This support mission left a deep impression on the three teachers. Initially, they were either there because of Daniel's power or due to the influence of monostones, but after spending time with the students, the three expert teachers came to realize that Crossbridge Academy was not an ordinary school, it was more like a large family. The students cared for each other and showed genuine respect toward the teachers, which deepened the three teachers' sense of belonging to the academy. Father. Rose's eyes lit up the moment she saw Daniel. She ran over to him in a few quick steps. Father, I'm back. All the students who participated in the support mission have returned safely. As she spoke, she respectfully performed a standard knight's salute to Daniel. After this period of training, Rose had reached the mid-tier of iron rank. She had grown taller and her demeanor had become more mature. Well done, Daniel patted her on the shoulder. That simple praise made Rose beam with joy. The other students greeted Daniel respectfully, and he told them to go undressed. The academy had already prepared hot meals, and the new hot water magic array was ready for them to use. Wow, this is awesome. The students cheered. We can take hot baths anytime now. The academy looks so different. It's so beautiful, even the street lamps have magical fluctuations. Is this really the academy we know? It's suddenly so full of happiness. The students couldn't wait to rush inside and explore their newly renovated campus. Why aren't you going to rest? Daniel asked Rose. Is there something you want to tell me? Yes, Father. Rose nodded. She hesitated, unsure whether to share her thoughts. But seeing the encouraging look in Daniel's eyes, she chose to speak up. Father, during this support mission, we not only faced spell beasts but also saw many unfortunate children, she said. Many of them didn't even have enough to eat or shoes to wear. A lot of our classmates use their monastones to buy clothes and food for those children. Most of the students at Crossbridge Academy were orphans, but thanks to the efforts of the former headmaster, while their learning environment might have been tough, they had never lacked clothes or food. It was only after visiting the border city that they saw what true survival struggles looked like. This experience deeply moved the students. Rose even came up with a bold idea. "Father, since the academy has always taken in orphans, could we?" She hesitated, then softly asked, "Could we also take in those unfortunate children and make them academy students?" "Yes," Daniel said. "But you'll be responsible for this matter, and it must not interfere with your studies. If there's a problem, you'll be held accountable." He wanted to give Rose a chance to develop her various abilities. Although the orphans were pitiful, in their struggle to survive, they might resort to petty theft. The challenge would be how to reform them and help them adapt to academy life. This would be Rose's test. "Thank you for trusting me, Father," Rose said shyly. "Actually, during the trip to the border, I made friends with a few children who have great potential, so I've already brought them back. They're with Cousin Green right now, outside the academy." "How has Green been doing?" Daniel asked. He recalled that Green was the son of the original headmaster's younger brother, who had gone on an expedition and had been missing for years. Green had been living with them ever since. "Green has improved a lot." Rose smiled. "He used to be afraid of blood, but now he's completely fine. Even when he was covered in blood from battle, he didn't faint." "Not bad," Daniel said. "In the future, if you come across children with good character and integrity, just inform Lady Isolde. You don't need to report each one to me." "Understood, Father." While the students were resting, Daniel called Rowan, the head of the academic affairs office, over. "Daniel, what can I do for you?" "You've seen how frugal the kids are," Daniel said. "It's a good mindset, but it's holding back their progress." Rowan nodded. "So, what do you propose?" "Set up an internal exchange system within the academy," Daniel said. "In addition to the regular supplies distributed, students can earn score by improving their skills, completing academy tasks, and so on. These scores can be used to exchange for items. I'll create a list of items, ranging from basic potions and materials to 3-star treasures, and there will be more things added in the future. Anyone, as long as they have enough score, can exchange for these items. The teachers as well." At this, even the usually calm Rowan looked excited. 3-star treasures? Such rare items could be exchanged just by accumulating score. Once this news spread, the entire academy, teachers and students alike, would be buzzing as if they had drunk molten lava potions. Rowan knew that some wealthy families had similar systems, but he never expected that Crossbridge Academy would undergo such a transformation. "Daniel, your decision is truly brilliant," Rowan praised. "This way, everyone will be more motivated, and their sense of belonging to the academy will grow stronger." That was precisely Daniel's intention. With so many students, some were bound to have peculiar or sensitive personalities. Such individuals could easily turn to the dark side if not handled properly. But now, with the score system, it didn't matter what their personalities were like or how good their relationships were, if they worked hard, they would always get what they wanted. "It's not just about academic performance. We want well-rounded talent at this academy," Daniel instructed. "Teach each student carefully, observe what they excel at. Even if it's something like organizing, cleaning, or being particularly meticulous, those are all strengths." Rowan nodded repeatedly. He had once thought that Daniel was not as capable as the former headmaster. But now, every decision Daniel made earned his deep respect. These children were being treated seriously by Daniel as headmaster. Even if they didn't become great knights or mages, they would still grow into honest and capable individuals. Sure enough, when the newly named Crossbridge Treasure Vault exchange system was announced, the students were ecstatic. "Wow! Everyone gets 500 starting score. Haha, that's enough to exchange for 50 mana stones. I never thought something like this could happen. I heard we're going to get a lot more score soon based on our performance during the support mission. Have you seen the items in the treasure vault? There are so many good things. I need to work hard, there's all the magic materials I want. The tasks haven't been posted yet, but you can earn score just by studying diligently. Am I dreaming? Wait, finding reliable talents to join the academy earns 3,000 score. Students getting married will receive bonus points. Even children of adult students joining the academy will earn score." Everyone looked at each other in disbelief. Daniel was always full of surprises. This system seemed to not only cover student life but even marriage and having children in the future. Chapter 19, the new exchange plan ignited a wave of enthusiasm throughout the academy. Many students began forming groups, planning to explore and go on expeditions. Not only would this help them strengthen their abilities, But they could also earn scores through these adventures. If they acquired any valuable items, there was no need to sell them to outside shops. They could directly go to the Academy's logistics department to exchange the items for either mana stones or scores. As a result, Rose, after only a few days of rest, informed Daniel that she and a few friends were heading out again. "Father, we're planning to return to the borderlands," Rose said. "There are still spell beasts that haven't been dealt with, and I want to bring back more of those unfortunate children." "Don't worry, Green will be coming with us." Daniel didn't stop her. He handed her several crystals. "Instant cast magic amulets," Daniel explained. "For you and your friends. Keep them with you at all times. If you encounter danger, they will warn you and protect you from a fatal attack." "Yes, Father." Rose happily left. This time, they would be facing a true adventure without the protection of teachers. Daniel wasn't too concerned. The magic amulets he gave to Rose contained a trace of his mind power, allowing him to sense Rose's location at all times. After sending his daughter off, Daniel began organizing the various magical books he had purchased earlier. After 2 major shopping sprees, he had accumulated dozens of magic books. This gave Daniel a deeper understanding of the world's magical system. Long ago, the first people to awaken magical abilities did so by accidentally obtaining various magical items, such as consuming magical herbs or mana crystals, which granted them special powers. These people intermarried to ensure that their children were born with powers that surpassed ordinary humans. At that time, families were the most powerful forces, monopolizing all magical items. Later, ordinary people, unwilling to be oppressed, sought new paths. Some awakened through battles with spell beasts. Others befriended more peaceful spell beasts and learned their methods of gaining strength. This marked the discovery of absorbing natural energy from the air. This breakthrough shattered the family monopolies, leading humanity into an era of rapid development. Various classes and abilities emerged, and humanity's greatest gift, creativity, flourished. The invention of magic arrays, alchemy, and mana-powered items gradually made humans the dominant force on the continent, while spell beasts were forced to retreat to remote corners. This was the history of how human power developed on the continent. Fascinating, but with obvious flaws, Daniel concluded. Due to multiple awakenings and innovations, there are far too many ways to enhance one's power. For an ordinary person to find the perfect method for themselves, it would take a great deal of time and money. Even academy students, after going through talent testing, still had a chance of choosing an unsuitable method of enhancement. I could create a foundational manual that anyone could use. Daniel suddenly had an idea. It doesn't need to be extremely powerful, but it should be accessible to anyone, no matter their age or condition, without side effects. It would be like a universal key to unlock the door. Once they open that door, the path they choose would still be up to them. This way, the continent's overall combat power would increase, and we'd fully enter an era of high magic, chaotic, but more interesting. This idea was far ahead of its time in this world, something no one had ever conceived before. But Daniel came from Earth. To him, creating a universal foundational system was like promoting literacy for the masses. People need to be able to read before they can dive into more books and gain more knowledge. Let's create a prototype first. Daniel began working. The mana core engraved in the heart would be the power source, while the foundational texts would extend from it. Each person's internal mana pattern was different and complex, but the common point for all humans was that they shared the same basic organs. The heart was the core, extending to the liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys, these 4 pillars. From there, it spread to the gallbladder, small intestine, stomach, large intestine, bladder, and triple burner, and then to the blood vessels. Even if someone was born without or later lost an organ, it wouldn't affect the system too much. Mana would form a virtual extension in place of the missing organ, allowing it to function as intended. As long as the heart is still beating and you can breathe, you can continuously absorb natural energy from the environment. A new training manual began to take shape in Daniel's mind. It's gentle but reliable. And if mana stones are used, the process will speed up. He kept refining his calculations. Whenever he found an error in the text, he corrected it. Whenever he found a connection that wouldn't work, he fixed it. Whenever there were unnecessary, redundant paths, he streamlined them. And so, Daniel became fully immersed in the process. He closed his eyes, and if it weren't for the faint aura of power surrounding him, one might think he was asleep. This state of deep focus lasted for 50 days. During that time, Daniel never left his room. When Vice Headmaster Aldrich tried to visit him, he was blown back by a gust of wind before he could even get close. Realizing that Daniel had entered a state where he couldn't be disturbed, Aldrich hung a Do Not Disturb sign on Daniel's door and placed magical dummies as guards to ensure no one interrupted him. Even when Rose returned from her adventure and wanted to see Daniel, she couldn't get in. Another 30 days passed. Finally, Daniel opened his eyes. It's done. A transparent diamond-shaped crystal floated in front of him, emitting a faint silver glow, as if a magic array were spinning within it. I didn't expect it to take so long. Inside the crystal was a brand new training manual. This was something entirely unprecedented. Daniel's creation was revolutionary. Not only could it actively absorb natural energy, but it could also passively draw energy from magic arrays, spell beast cores, and even the scattered power of other humans. As long as someone had the access rights granted by Daniel, they could copy the manual from the crystal. Anyone, no matter their gender or age, could use it. Although the results would vary from person to person, it truly allowed everyone to train. Now it needs a good name. Daniel pondered for a moment. I'll call it Genesis. He had a feeling that his creation would gradually change the entire continent. It might even give rise to a new world. News of Daniel emerging from his room quickly spread throughout the academy. In addition to the concerned students rushing over to greet him, several teachers came as well. After confirming that Daniel was in good health, Rowan and Isolde began reporting recent events. Daniel, there haven't been any major incidents lately. What about the spell beasts at the border? The spell beasts seem to have calmed down. Our academy's students have gone on several expeditions, and perhaps because of that, both the Moonstone family and House Windwisper send out people as well. Most of the larger spell beasts have been eliminated. However, some students still remain at the border, wanting to hone their skills. Just as you instructed, they've established strong friendships with the local residents. Daniel nodded. The Moonstone family and House Windwisper were too slow to act. By now, the border towns revered only Crossbridge Academy, greatly expanding the academy's sphere of influence. The students of Crossbridge were sincere and dedicated, unlike the old hands from the two other families. They brought their own food and supplies, saving many people, and even took in many children, bringing them back to Crossbridge Academy. This gave rise to the notion in those border towns that joining Crossbridge Academy is an honor. In short, the academy's influence at the border had completely overshadowed the other factions. And what about the people joining us? Daniel asked. My requirement is that character comes first. Yes, we've conducted various assessments, Rowan replied. Over 500 free mages and knights applied to join, and after the assessments, 150 passed. Daniel nodded. Once we're sure of their character, have them start with 1 or 2 simple tasks. After identifying their strengths, allow them access to the treasure vault exchange system. This would provide newcomers with more motivation and loyalty to the academy. Even if someone's strength wasn't up to par, that was only temporary. Daniel knew that with all the resources he controlled, as long as there were enough people, he could produce an army of experts. Chapter 20, Daniel, I feel like if things continue like this, the number of people at our academy will explode, Isolde said. The academy used to feel so empty, but now it's full of people everywhere. Thankfully, the old headmaster had the foresight not to sell off the extra land. Aside from the new freelance practitioners joining, even the students are forming different small groups during their expeditions. Daniel asked, small groups? Yes, they've attracted many young people from outside the academy to follow them, Isolde explained. For example, Green has teamed up with a bunch of boys, and they've named themselves the Whirlwind Boys. Miss Rose, along with a few close female friends, formed a group called Dead Pink. Daniel couldn't help but laugh at the names these kids had come up with. Sure enough, they were still just children. As long as there's no malicious competition and these groups help bring in fresh talent, such so-called small groups shouldn't be a problem, Daniel concluded. Seeing that Daniel wasn't opposed, Lady Isolde smiled too. Headmaster, although these kids are young, they've been doing a pretty good job. For example, Rose's Dead Pink helped a nearby village last month by driving off a mercenary group that attempted to raid them. This has made their reputation even more well-known. Everyone's saying that the students from Crossbridge Academy are all good kids. Hearing about Rose's achievements gave Daniel a sense of pride. He knew that with Rose's determination and resilience, it was only a matter of time before she made a name for herself. Daniel, the students are doing great, and the opening of the Mistdriver realm is approaching. Are you planning to send them to participate this time? Asked Rowan, the head of the Academic Affairs Office. The Mistdriver realm opens once every 50 years. The opening time isn't fixed, but it usually happens around the second week of July. The realm is a vast forest. The outskirts contain many magical herbs and natural mana stones, while deeper inside, spell beasts can be found. Some have even stumbled into the heart of the forest, discovering massive footprints and, nearby, four-star alchemical materials. The last time the realm opened, Crossbridge Academy was at its peak. Daniel's father led a group of elite students and, despite being ambushed by the other two families, managed to secure a large amount of treasures. Those materials were exchanged for mana stones, which had sustained the academy for so long. This time, we will participate, Daniel said, already forming a list in his mind. We'll hold an internal academy tournament, and the top 20 students will be able to enter the realm. Understood. While the realm had great rewards, it was also extremely dangerous. Sending in students who weren't strong enough would be sending them to their deaths. Daniel wasn't about to let the promising young talents he had painstakingly cultivated die in such a place. Seeing Isolde's smiling face, Daniel was struck by a thought and tossed her 3 large bags of mana stones. This is the budget for preparing to enter the realm and for academy shopping during this period, Daniel said. Same rule as always, you have to spend it all. Lady Isolde's smile vanished instantly. She frowned, deep in thought about what she could possibly buy to spend the entire budget. By the way, Daniel, this came from Lady Claire of Dragonscale Bank. Rowan brought in several magical storage boxes. She said it's the agreed-upon supplies. The boxes were filled to the brim with carefully selected items. Even while Daniel had been holed up, Lady Claire had kept sending things on time. Particularly, the last 3 boxes contained items for which Daniel hadn't even paid yet, suggesting that Claire had used some kind of privilege to send them before payment. Does Lady Claire trust me that much? Daniel glanced at the bill. Is she not afraid I'll just refuse to pay or run away? All the items together were worth nearly 3.7 trillion mana stones. Daniel instructed Isolde to store the materials properly. Most of them would be added to the list of exchangeable items in the Crossbridge treasure vault. Send this crystal to Lady Claire, Daniel said, handing over a crystal filled with mana stones. The payment is inside, and she knows the password to unlock it. Understood. Rowan carefully put away the crystal. The sheer amount of wealth made him uneasy. Just as he was about to leave, another matter came to his mind. Daniel, last month a mercenary squad came to see you. They claimed to be the Ragdag mercenary squad and said you had saved them once. Yes, Daniel nodded. He vaguely remembered the incident. Just as he was about to tell Rowan to arrange for the squad to join the Academy's security team, Daniel had a new idea. Genesis was ready. It was the perfect time to find someone to test it. The Ragdag mercenary squad was of average strength, but their tenacity made them ideal candidates to try out the new training manual. He instructed Rowan to summon the members of the Ragdag mercenary squad. Daniel. The group, dressed in fresh new clothes, immediately saluted when they saw Daniel. They carried the Academy badge, having successfully joined. The benefits of Crossbridge Academy had far exceeded their expectations. Not only did they receive mana stones each month, but all their daily necessities were provided for free. They had never imagined living a life where they could sleep under expensive magical blankets. This deepened their gratitude toward Daniel. No need to be so tense. Introduce yourselves, Daniel said. I remember your leader is a knight named Kent. Yes. Kent stepped forward and introduced the squad members. This is my sister Cheryl, the priest in our squad. Mage Lily, Assassin Lucy, and Hunter Maston. Daniel glanced at them. Your strength has improved a bit since I last saw you. Kent is now mid-tier bronze, Maston is low-tier bronze, and the rest of you are still tier iron, correct? The squad members nodded in unison, their respect for Daniel deepening. For their headmaster to gauge their levels with just a glance, he must be far beyond their abilities. Daniel spoke directly. I've developed a new training manual, and I need someone to be the first to try it. The new manual isn't dangerous, but since no one has used it before, it's natural for you to be concerned. I won't force you if you're unwilling. If you agree, I can promise that I'll invest resources into your training and help your entire team reach tier gold in a short time. The group exchanged looks, stunned. They hadn't expected this to be why Daniel had summoned them. As the leader, Kent's mind raced with thoughts. A new training manual meant unknown risks. If they failed, the best-case scenario would be severe injury, leaving them unable to progress for the rest of their lives. The worst-case scenario would be death. Even if they succeeded, there was no guarantee that the new manual would be stronger than their current training methods. For a moment, everyone remained silent, filled with unease. Daniel, may I ask something? Kent cautiously spoke. If we refuse, will we be expelled from the academy? Of course not, Daniel smiled. There's no problem if you refuse. I can find others to try it. I chose you because, during the battle with the turtle spell beast, you showed remarkable resilience. The new manual requires such resilience during the rest phases, or it will likely fail. He was upfront with them. He simply found this group of young people likable and wanted to give them an opportunity. Even so, the members of the mercenary squad found themselves caught in a dilemma. They didn't dare to agree lightly. This was a life-changing decision. Daniel didn't rush them. He needed their wholehearted consent. After a brief silence, the assassin Lucy suddenly stepped forward. She looked Daniel in the eyes and said earnestly, "Daniel, with your strength, I trust that you wouldn't deceive us. I'm willing to help you test this new manual." Good. Daniel had a deep impression of this assassin girl. Back then, she had been willing to sacrifice herself to buy time for her comrades to escape. With such character, she deserved to be the first to train using Genesis. Chapter 21, Lucy's words seemed to set things in motion. The rest of the team quickly chimed in, expressing their willingness to join the test. "If Lucy can do it, then so can I," said Lily, the timid-looking priest, in a soft voice. "If we succeed, everyone will become stronger." She didn't say what would happen if they failed. But the implication was clear: if they failed, they would all share the consequences. Daniel smiled slightly. The bond within this ragtag mercenary squad seemed pretty solid after all. "Are you sure?" Daniel gave them one last chance to change their minds. "Once we begin, there will be no turning back." "We're sure," they answered in unison. Daniel took out the mana containing the principles of Genesis and gently squeezed it. The squad members felt a sudden darkness engulf them. The scenery around them had completely changed. They were surrounded by swirling magic arrays, countless mana stones shining like stars in the sky. Focus your minds, feel the new laws the magic array brings. Relax, let go of the mana in your bodies. Once your mana is depleted, slowly begin to absorb the power of the magic array. Under Daniel's guidance, the mercenaries followed his instructions. He showed them how to use the new cultivation laws. The finer details, however, he left for them to figure out on their own. Before long, all the magic arrays lit up. They directly infused knowledge into their minds, and the basic grammar of Genesis was deeply imprinted in their brains. The five had varying talents, and the time it took to comprehend the new laws differed for each. Daniel was patient. He stood outside the magic array, watching the situation clearly through the layers of shimmering monostone barriers. Not bad, the physical changes are just as I predicted. Lucy and Kent have the best talent, progressing much faster than the others. Lily has the weakest talent, but she's determined. She's failed several times but hasn't given up. The enlightenment lasted a long time. It wasn't until the sky began to lighten that Daniel snapped his fingers, stopping the magic rays. The five woke up from their cultivation. Their faces were full of exhaustion, and they still seemed somewhat dazed. Daniel arranged for them to stay in the closest rooms to him to rest well, instructing them to come to him immediately if they experienced any unusual symptoms. "Master Daniel, I feel like, though I'm tired, I seem to be absorbing natural energy faster than before," Kent said. "And there were things I didn't understand during my previous training that now make perfect sense." Lucy progressed the fastest. She had originally been at the Iron Tier, and after dispelling her old strength and starting anew, she had already returned to her former tier. But the confusion and obstacles she had previously encountered were gone. Now, the new cultivation law seemed like a straight, unobstructed path, and as long as she followed it, she would reach heights she hadn't dared to imagine before. The others felt similarly. They looked at Daniel with deep gratitude in their eyes. Even the slowest among them could tell that the new law Daniel had them test was something extraordinary, far superior to the lower-grade laws they had been using. After bowing to Daniel again, they dragged their exhausted bodies to rest. Daniel, meanwhile, began to record the results of the first experiment. Errors in cultivation principles, none. Adverse reactions in test subjects, none. Risk of collapse during cultivation, none. He was quite pleased with the results. Just then, Academic Affairs Director Rowan came rushing over in a panic. "Daniel!" he exclaimed in alarm, "I've been robbed." Rowan's mage robe had a large tear in it, and the defensive magic array embedded in it had activated just in time to save him from a fatal attack. However, the magical impact had knocked him unconscious, and he had only just awoken. After speaking, Rowan suddenly coughed violently. With a PFFT, he spat out a mouthful of blood, his face as pale as snow. The number of mana stones stolen was staggering, and upon waking, he had rushed back without even treating his wounds, intent on reporting the incident. Daniel frowned slightly and placed a hand on Rowan's forehead. The next moment, Rowan felt a surge of warmth flow through his body, instantly healing his injuries, including the burning pain in his lungs. He stared at Daniel with wide eyes, momentarily at a loss for words. This was at least a tier master level blessing. Even the most dedicated priests couldn't perform such a powerful and effortless healing as Daniel had just done. "If you encounter something like this again, prioritize your safety," Daniel said. "Money can always be earned later, it's just some mana stones. But if you're seriously injured, the Academy would suffer an irreplaceable loss." Rowan was deeply moved by these words. He had expected Daniel to blame him for failing in his duties. But instead, Daniel was concerned about his well-being. It made Rowan feel that his decision to reject higher-paying offers from other families and stay with Crossbridge Academy had been the right one. "Where are the others who went with you?" Daniel asked, knowing that someone as cautious as Rowan wouldn't have gone to deliver something valuable alone. "They're all injured," Rowan said bitterly. "I had someone send them back. Most of them aren't in too bad of shape, but Big Head Stone. He was stabbed. He was unconscious all night, and he lost so much blood. The academy doctor said his ribs had punctured his heart, and there's no saving him." At this point, Rowan felt even more sorrow. Big Head Stone wasn't very skilled, nor was he particularly bright, but he was loyal to Crossbridge Academy, especially to the old headmaster. During the academy's toughest times, to prevent outsiders from sneaking in to cause trouble, he would patrol the entrance every night without sleep. Such a person didn't deserve such an end. "I'll go check on him." Daniel remembered Big Head Stone. Even in the memories of his predecessor, this honest man had left a strong impression. In a flash, Daniel disappeared, following the scent of blood, and reappeared the next second in the infirmary. The infirmary was filled with wounded people. Most had already been treated with powerful potions and bandages and had fallen into a deep sleep. The medic was gently wiping the blood off Big Head Stone's body with a cloth. Big Head Stone was completely unconscious. He was covered in blood and looked incredibly pitiful. Vice Headmaster Aldrich, Logistics Director Lady Isolde, and 3 other teachers were there as well, their expressions grim, faces full of anger. "Whoever did this, I swear I'll make them pay." Aldrich fumed. "Damn scum. How dare they harm one of our own? Damn thieves. How did they know Devon was carrying such a huge amount of mana stones? It must have been an insider leak from Dragon Scale Bank." Lady Isolde clenched her fists. "Those double-crossing, backstabbing bastards." Just as the others were about to speak, they saw Daniel suddenly appear. They were first startled, then looked at him as if seeing their savior. "Daniel, is there any hope for Big Head Stone?" Lady Isolde asked with a mixture of hope and desperation. The medic sighed. "I've already told you, Big Head Stone's external wounds are the least of our concerns. Even with a heart injury, there are ways to heal it. The real problem is that his soul is already starting to dissipate. He must have been attacked by a curse-wielding soul mage. If there were a high priest here providing protection at the time, maybe he could have been saved." The others' faces darkened. Yes, his soul was almost gone. How could he be saved now? Daniel scanned Big Head Stone's condition. A faint golden light flickered in his eyes as he saw the fragments of the soul dissipating. "Greater blessing." Daniel whispered. "Holy light, revive the warrior, restore the soul. Scattered soul, heed my command, gather back into your master's body." As he spoke, a gentle yet immense golden light enveloped the entire space. Everyone felt a warm sensation throughout their bodies. The other wounded, though asleep, smiled as their brows relaxed. Big Head Stone's injuries healed visibly before their eyes. His face regained its color, and although the others couldn't see the state of his soul, the next moment, they all gasped. Big Head Stone had opened his eyes. Chapter 22, Why did I sleep for so long? Big Head Stone looked confused. "Why is everyone staring at me?" You're alive." Isolde screamed with joy. "Thank goodness. You survived." Everyone else was equally shocked. They had never imagined that someone whose soul had started to dissipate could still be saved. While it wasn't quite a resurrection, it was pretty close. "When did I die?" Big Head Stone scratched his head, baffled. He jumped off the bed and patted the spot where he had been injured. "It's itchy here. I remember being hurt and passing out, but I guess it was just a dream." The terrifying wounds he had were completely healed. In fact, Big Head Stone seemed even more full of life than before. Everyone could tell that he was fully recovered. While they were happy for him, they were also deeply shaken by Daniel's abilities. In less than a minute, in just 10 seconds, Daniel had not only healed Big Head Stone's physical injuries but had also restored his shattered soul. His power far exceeded what anyone present could imagine. "Daniel, you are truly..." Lady Isolde didn't even know what to say. Aldrich, full of excitement, said, "If we publicize this, no one in Riverside City will ever dare oppose Crossbridge Academy again. Not just Riverside City, perhaps even larger cities nearby would have second thoughts before crossing them." "No." Daniel shook his head. "No one is to speak a word about what happened today." Although they didn't fully understand, no one dared to question Daniel's decision. They all nodded in agreement. "Now that everyone's here, tell me exactly what happened last night," Daniel said as he sat down. "I want every detail." "Yes," Rowan steadied himself and began, "I didn't want to draw attention, so I only brought Big Head Stone and a few others to Dragon Scale Bank. The process of handing over the mana stones to Lady Claire went smoothly, without any incidents. We were in her office the entire time, and no one else came in. After Lady Claire finished counting the mana stones, she gave me 2 chests of mana and even disguised them, making the chests look like ordinary baskets full of empty magic bottles. Daniel nodded. By this point, he already had a good idea of what had happened. Since the problem didn't seem to be with the academy, it had to be at Dragon Scale Bank. Lady Claire was unlikely to be the culprit. If she wanted to double-cross them, she wouldn't have given away 2 more valuable chests. That meant someone had known about the academy's large transaction with the bank and had been monitoring them. In the past, when Daniel handled things himself, the spies never detected him. But when someone else went in his place, these people, like sharks smelling blood, pounced immediately. The rest of the story unfolded as Daniel expected. Even though the academy group was carrying what appeared to be worthless empty magic bottles, they were attacked not long after leaving Dragon Scale Bank. At least 4 tier platinum individuals, well-trained, and they seemed to be part of an organization, Rowan said. The 4 of them attacked so swiftly that we didn't have time to react. Big Head Stone, who had been carrying the chests, was the most severely injured. The attackers didn't speak a word or make any noise throughout the assault, suggesting that they had done this many times before. Who could it be? Isolde wondered aloud. I originally thought it was someone from Dragon Scale Bank, but there's no way the Riverside City branch could muster that many high-level experts. And what would be the point of robbing their own goods? Aren't they afraid of the reputational damage if they're found out? Daniel, could it be? Isolde lowered her voice. The Shadow League? The Shadow League was a mysterious organization on the continent. They seemed to have some grand scheme in motion, and their members were frequently involved in assassinations, robberies, and other notorious activities. The mere mention of their name struck fear into the hearts of many. The others' expressions grew grim as well. Humphrey, it doesn't matter who it is, Daniel said as he stood up. The injured should rest. Everyone else, proceed as usual. I'll take care of this. Those who dared to attack our academy will disappear from this world forever. With that, his form flickered and vanished from the room. Everyone was stunned. A moment later, someone muttered, Daniel has changed so much. Have you noticed? Stop talking, Aldrich said sternly. No matter how much he changes, Daniel will always be our respected headmaster. Didn't you see the light he just emitted? That was pure greater blessing. Anyone capable of wielding such magic could never be tainted by evil. So, I don't want to hear any more of this kind of talk. It was rare for Aldrich to lose his temper. Everyone nodded in agreement. What was wrong with change? Daniel's father had passed, and he had suffered a great blow. Of course, his personality would shift. Besides, ever since his transformation, every decision he had made had been perfect. The academy itself had undergone a complete transformation. After leaving, Daniel reappeared at the site where the Crossbridge Academy members had been attacked. The bloodstains on the ground were still visible. This was the main road between the academy and the city. A faint golden light flickered in Daniel's eyes. In the next moment, the scenery around him dimmed slightly, as if a thin layer of black gauze had been draped over everything. Within this black veil, faint golden threads stood out starkly. Those were traces of Daniel's mind power marks. He had left a small mark of mind power on every member of the academy. Using the marks at the scene, Daniel reconstructed what had happened in his mind. This area was also covered by a silence magic array and a phantom magic array. Their preparations were thorough. Faint trails of mind power spread in another direction. These were traces left by the attackers. There was always some transfer during contact, and this applied to mind power as well. These attackers had brushed against a tiny bit of Daniel's mind power, leaving behind such traces. Daniel flew off in the direction of the attackers. Before long, he saw several people dressed in Dragon Scale Bank uniforms on a hillside ahead. They appeared to be searching for something. Leading them was none other than Lady Claire. Her expression was grim as she directed her subordinates. Search carefully. Don't miss any clues. Suddenly, as if sensing something, Lady Claire looked up sharply. She met Daniel's cold gaze head-on. Daniel. Lady Claire's back was instantly drenched in cold sweat. She had never imagined that a single look from someone could instill such fear in her. Daniel spoke directly. Who did it? Crossbridge Academy had been attacked right after leaving Dragon Scale Bank. There was no way Lady Claire hadn't heard about it. Her presence at the scene of the attack and her search efforts made it clear she knew something. It was Lady Tina from Lake City's Dragon Scale Bank, she whispered. I'm sorry. This was supposed to be an internal struggle. I had no idea she'd be bold enough to target a client. Daniel wasn't fully convinced. Evidence. Lady Tina and I have never gotten along. She's been trying to take over my position in Riverside City. Claire explained, based on the volume of transactions I've done with you, Daniel, I should have been promoted by now, but Lady Tina has been involved with the chief steward of Lake City, and they've been blocking my application. She even secretly came to Riverside City to spy on me. That day, after failing to find the mysterious client, Lady Claire bypassed Mr. Dick and submitted an application directly to the headquarters. Due to her outstanding performance and the unjust delay in her promotion, headquarters began investigating Dick's actions. As a result, the scandal of bribery and illicit favors between Lady Tina and Mr. Dick came to light. Lady Tina was reassigned to the smallest town, and Dick was demoted to second steward, stripped of his authority to make personnel changes. Claire was promoted smoothly. These two have hated me ever since. Lady Tina certainly has the ability to mobilize 4-tier platinum assassins. Lady Claire apologized sincerely. I will investigate this matter thoroughly and ensure you get justice, Daniel. She was incredibly nervous inside. This was a serious matter. If Daniel pursued it, she might lose him as a major client. Not daring to offend Daniel in the slightest, Lady Claire humbly said, "This was my failure. Whatever punishment you deem appropriate, I will accept." Chapter 23, Any Punishment? Daniel glanced at Lady Claire's beautiful face and well-proportioned figure, then let out a cold laugh. Your dedication is commendable. Lady Claire's face instantly turned red. She could hear the sarcasm in Daniel's words. But there was nothing she could do, so she silently endured it. You knew that Tina had come here and could pose a threat to our transaction. Why didn't you inform me in advance? Daniel's voice was icy. Because of that, my people suffered serious injuries. I'm sorry. Lady Claire knelt on one knee, humbly apologizing. I know no amount of apology can make up for the life of your subordinate. I will personally compensate Mr. Bigheadstone's family for his unfortunate passing. The person behind Tina is Mr. Dick. He's been running the Lake City branch of Dragon Scale Bank for many years and knows many powerful people. It's said that he even has connections with tier diamond experts. I didn't want you to clash with Tina. I never expected her to be so reckless. Claire had already received word that the most severely injured from Crossbridge Academy was someone named Bigheadstone, and she had heard that he was beyond saving. But now, facing Daniel's cold gaze, Lady Claire realized for the first time just how powerless her words were. Daniel watched as beads of sweat dripped from Lady Claire's forehead. After a moment, he spoke, You should be grateful that Bigheadstone didn't die. Otherwise, there would no longer be a Dragon Scale Bank in Riverside City. There will be no next time. Anything that could potentially harm the Academy must be reported to me immediately. Yes. Lady Claire exhaled slightly, relieved. Daniel's pressure was overwhelming. She was even worried that one wrong word would result in her being killed on the spot. But Claire couldn't help but wonder, why hadn't Bigheadstone died? Did Crossbridge Academy have a high priest skilled in healing? The transaction will continue, Daniel said. I'll take care of the other matters. Sorry, what other matters? Claire was suddenly confused. Those who hurt my academy will pay the price, no matter who they are, Daniel said calmly. Get me the magical portraits of Lady Tina from Lake City and Mr. Dick. Ah. Lady Claire finally understood. She was too shocked to speak. Daniel was planning revenge. Please think carefully. Claire hurriedly said. Tina has likely already fled to Lake City with all those stolen goods. Mr. Dick will definitely protect her, and there are many powerful people in Dragon Scale Bank's office. She was truly worried now. No matter how strong Daniel was, he couldn't possibly take on all the experts in Lake City. Lady Claire didn't want to see Daniel lose his cool and rush into a death trap. Powerful people? Daniel sneered. How strong are they? Forget the magical portraits, you're coming with me to identify them in person. Without giving Lady Claire a chance to refuse, Daniel wrapped a strand of mind power around her. Lady Claire was unable to move. The next moment, her vision blurred, and the scenery around her began to spin. Lake City. Ha ha ha, this feels great, Lady Tina said, admiring the magic chests before her with a seductive smile. So easy to get so much stuff. These are no longer the bank's treasures, but ours now. The thought of Claire's reaction when she found out made Tina even happier. Would she fight back? Humphrey, not a chance. That path would lead only to death. With the goods stolen, the client would undoubtedly sever ties with Claire. And when the headquarters held her accountable, Claire would have to personally repay everything that had been taken. Mr. Dick playfully pinched her delicate cheek. You were a bit too harsh this time. Stealing the goods was enough, there was no need to kill anyone. So what if I killed them? Tina said indifferently. Crossbridge Academy is full of worthless nobodies. Their students are poor orphans, and their new headmaster is a famous weakling. The only reason they could buy so much was because of the old headmaster's inheritance. Even if I wiped them all out, no one would care. She had spent enough time in Riverside City to gather a lot of information, and she thought she knew everything about Crossbridge Academy's situation. She knew that the new headmaster, Daniel, was just tier iron, which was why she had ordered the attackers to show no mercy. They made a big purchase before, buying up all of Dragon Scale Bank in Riverside City, attracting a lot of envy, Tina said with a smile. If we didn't make a move, someone else would have sooner or later. Exactly. Sudden wealth makes people like that reckless. They don't know how to hide their strength, Mr. Dick agreed. Consider this a lesson for them. To them, a force without solid foundations was like a candle in the wind, easily snuffed out with the slightest breeze. Neither of them had any respect for Crossbridge Academy. At most, they thought Claire might face some minor trouble if she insisted on investigating. My dear, I've done so well this time. What will you reward me with? Tina leaned against Mr. Dick, her body soft and alluring. I want that beauty gem that keeps people forever young. Ha ha ha, anything you want, Mr. Dick laughed. But you're already so beautiful without the gem. If you used it, those country bumpkins in Riverside City would be so enchanted by you, you wouldn't even need to lift a finger to steal from them. Really? A stranger's voice suddenly cut in. Mr. Dick was startled. Both of them turned toward the source of the voice. In the center of the room, a spinning vortex of wind had appeared, with countless stars twinkling within it. Two figures slowly emerged from the vortex. One of them was none other than Claire, the very person they had been discussing. You bitch. How do you have a spatial scroll? Tina screamed in fear. And who is this man? Is he your lover? Mr. Dick's face turned deathly pale, and his body began to tremble uncontrollably. His strength was greater than Tina's, so he could see that this was no mere spatial scroll. It was genuine spatial magic. A powerful magic long thought lost to history, said to only be wielded by mages of tier Grandmaster or higher. While Tina was still screaming, Mr. Dick had already collapsed to the ground. Forgive me, sir. He stammered, his voice trembling. May I ask what brings you to Dragonscale Bank? Are these the two? Daniel asked. Yes, Claire replied, still trembling with fear herself. She had never imagined that when Daniel said he was going after them, he would use this method. He had asked for the location of the Lake City branch and obtained some personal items from Lady Tina, then used powerful spatial magic to bring them here. The entire process had taken less than 10 minutes. Claire silently counted her blessings. Fortunately, she had shown Daniel enough respect. Otherwise, if she had angered this mysterious and unfathomable man, she wouldn't even know how she died. Why are you scared of him? Tina pushed the kneeling Mr. Dick. This is that useless fool Daniel I told you about. I've seen his magical portrait. They must have spent the last of their money on a spatial scroll. Call for help and show them what happens to those who trespass in Dragonscale Bank. What? This man was that Daniel? Mr. Dick's eyes widened in disbelief. According to the reports, wasn't Daniel only tier iron? But the man standing before him was clearly of unfathomable power, at least at the Grandmaster level. Damn it, wait. Tina gritted her teeth. I'll call for help myself. She barely took 2 steps before Mr. Dick grabbed her. Idiot. Kneel. He shouted, drenched in cold sweat. Apologize to Lord Daniel immediately. That's not a scroll, it's real spatial magic. How is that possible? Tina froze. But everyone in Riverside City said Daniel was just a useless weakling, only here because of his father's legacy. Mr. Dick wished he could leap forward and shut the foolish woman's mouth. If she wanted to die, she didn't need to drag him down with her. Daniel had come for revenge, and it was obvious. Gritting his teeth, Mr. Dick suddenly said, Lord Daniel, I had nothing to do with this. It was all Tina's doing. I was merely momentarily swayed by her. I was just about to report this when you arrived. This is all Tina's fault. It really has nothing to do with me. Chapter 24, Mr. Dick's words made Tina gasp in shock. She couldn't believe it. The man who had been fawning over her just a minute ago had suddenly turned on her, pushing all the blame onto her. You coward. He's just a worthless nobody, and you're this scared? Tina shouted, her anger making her lose control of her words. Daniel. I'll tell you right now, I stole your things. I killed your people. What are you going to do about it? This is Dragonscale Bank. If you dare make a move here, you'll be going up against all the Dragonscale banks across the continent. Get out of here immediately, and take that slut Claire with you. Disappear? Daniel pointed a finger in Tina's direction. Tina flew backward, slamming into the wall. But the entire room was sealed off by Daniel's magic, so Tina kept being flung back and forth, crashing into the floor and walls repeatedly. Blood trickled from her mouth. The sound of bones breaking and her agonized screams echoed throughout the room. For 5 whole minutes, Tina was battered around like a ragdoll in front of Dick and Claire. When she finally fell to the ground, her body lay in a twisted, unnatural position, with her limbs bent in wrong directions. Every bone in her body was broken, many of them completely shattered. Save me. Tina looked at Dick, but her spine was utterly crushed, leaving her unable to move. Dick stared at her, frozen in place, not daring to move or even make a sound. He was terrified that he would be the next one to suffer such torture. Tina gasped for breath, her broken bones piercing into her heart and lungs, making every breath agonizing. "This is for Big Head Stone," Daniel said. "He suffered just as much after you injured him." Tears of regret filled Tina's eyes. She truly regretted her actions and was now terrified. This Daniel was nothing like the weakling she had heard about. With such terrifying methods and power, he was someone she should never have provoked. But it was too late now. However, Daniel wasn't finished with her yet. Her body had suffered, but her mind would as well. This was revenge, after all. "You wanted a gem that would keep you forever beautiful," Daniel said. "Since you care so much about your appearance, watching yourself turn into an old woman, full of wrinkles, should be interesting." He snapped his fingers. Tina's life force rapidly drained away. A mirror appeared before her, showing her reflection aging at an incredible speed. Wrinkles and age spots quickly covered her face, her eyes grew cloudy, and her teeth yellowed and cracked. "No, no, no, no!" Tina screamed in despair. "That old hag in the mirror isn't me. I'm the most beautiful." Her mind shattered completely. Soon, her flesh dissolved, leaving behind only a skeleton. In just 3 minutes, she had aged 100 years, and even her bones turned to dust. The living, breathing woman had perished in such a horrific manner with just a snap of Daniel's fingers, and Mr. Dick, having witnessed it all, was now crying in terror. "Lord Daniel, please." Daniel cut him off. "Your voice is as annoying as frogs croaking at night." As soon as he spoke, a gust of wind expanded from Daniel's body. In the next moment, everything in the room, the walls, the furniture, even the corridors and offices outside, was reduced to ashes in the blink of an eye. The top of the Dragon Scale Bank Tower was erased. The staff below stared up in shock, their mouths hanging open. They hadn't heard any noise, just felt a rain of dust, and when they looked up, they saw this astonishing scene. "We're under attack. Oh my god, what kind of power is this? It's terrifying. Run. Everyone run. This has to be a tier master level expert. We're too weak, we'll be turned to dust just like the tower if we stay." Not only the staff, but many of the customers were fleeing in panic as well. As the dust cleared, Mr. Dick sat frozen, his mind completely shattered by the events. Everything that had happened today was far beyond his comprehension. A warm sensation spread down his legs, he had wet himself in fear. "Pissing yourself won't save you," Daniel said coldly. "You'll die all the same." He pointed a finger at Dick. In the next moment, Dick let out a blood-curdling scream. He rolled on the ground in agony, vomiting blood and bits of his organs. Lady Claire cowered in the corner, not daring to make a sound, trying her best to become invisible. "Stop!" Several voices rang out at once. Finally, the experts from Dragon Scale Bank had arrived. They flew toward the top floor. When they saw the obliterated tower, they all wore expressions of shock. The strongest among them was a tier diamond mage, clad in a luxurious robe studded with mana stones, his expression haughty. He was the most powerful person at Dragon Scale Bank in Lake City. Normally, everyone showed him great respect. Today, hearing that someone was causing trouble, the mage decided to teach the intruder a lesson. But the moment he saw Daniel, cold sweat poured down his face. The aura radiating from Daniel was like an endless abyss. Just one glance made the mage feel fear deep in his soul. "Esteemed sir. Welcome to Dragon Scale Bank. Whatever you wish to purchase, we have it." The tier diamond mage forced a smile. "Haha, you knocked down the roof? No problem at all, as long as you're happy." The other guards also realized the strength of the man before them. Not only did they turn a blind eye to the suffering Mr. Dick, they even began flattering Daniel. He killed Tina," Mr. Dick sputtered, emboldened by the arrival of the others. "He's going to kill me too. He's trying to start a war with Dragon Scale Bank. Hurry, kill him." "Shut up. Tina is dead, and that's that." The tier diamond mage barked. "Shut your mouth and don't offend this gentleman." "Is everyone here?" Daniel asked coldly, looking at them. "Yes, sir. How can we assist you?" The group stared eagerly at Daniel. By now, a crowd had gathered on the streets below. News of Dragon Scale Bank's tower being destroyed had spread throughout Lake City. Not only were the residents watching, but people from other factions were also keen to see what would happen. "Did you see that? Dragon Scale Bank's roof has been blown off. Haha, those arrogant old men who look down on everyone are now bowing to a stranger like clowns." But who is that stranger? To suppress so many experts on his own? Lake City had many powerful individuals, but none of them had any intention of stepping in to help. Daniel looked at the people in front of him and spoke slowly. "Today is the day you die. 4 of you went to Riverside City, stole my belongings, and gravely injured my subordinates. I don't care who was responsible, you will all die today. The group was dumbfounded. They never expected that this powerful figure had come for them. You, the Tear Diamond Mage started to speak. Daniel had no interest in hearing his excuses. With a wave of his hand, the bodies of the group suddenly split in half. No matter their tier, none of them had the strength to resist. Like straw men, they were torn apart, their bodies falling from the sky, smashing into the ground, and turning into piles of flesh. Murder. He is killing people. It's terrifying. What kind of power is this? The Tear Diamond Mage of Dragon Scale Bank was killed without even a reaction. I think they provoked someone they never should have. The crowd scattered in fear. Even the powerful figures who had come to watch the spectacle backed away. Dragon Scale Bank might not have many experts in laicity, but their presence spanned the entire continent. Whoever had killed their people today would surely face retribution from their headquarters. The smart ones had no desire to get involved in this matter. Daniel, meanwhile, was quite satisfied and allowed a faint smile to cross his lips. Chapter 25, Claire, who was standing beside Daniel, knew that he had come for revenge, but she never expected that he would kill everyone involved without the slightest hesitation. She was stunned. With a flick of Daniel's hand, two magical chests appeared in front of him. Before making his move, he had deliberately avoided damaging these items, so the contents remained intact. He took back what rightfully belonged to him. Dick, who still had a breath left, knew his fate was sealed. He stared at Daniel and shouted, "Daniel, don't think killing us will solve everything. Our organization will never let you go. Your school will be razed to the ground, and you won't die a peaceful death." "Oh? I'm looking forward to it," Daniel scoffed. With just a glance, Dick coughed up another mouthful of blood. His internal organs were shattered, and the pain nearly caused him to faint. Killing Dick was as easy for Daniel as swatting a mosquito. But Dick's words piqued his interest. "Fine, I won't kill you," Daniel suddenly laughed. "Go ahead, call all those people you claim will destroy my school. I'm not interested in hunting them down one by one." Not only that, but Daniel also tossed a healing potion onto Dick, ensuring he wouldn't die before summoning reinforcements. Instead of dealing with them one by one, why not deal with them all at once? Daniel had no time to waste. "You'll regret your arrogance today. They'll come for me, and you'll be slaughtered like a dog." Dick screamed in desperation. "Why slaughter a dog?" A mature female voice suddenly cut in. Claire visibly shuddered at the sound of the voice. A woman, around 40 years old, had appeared in the air, dressed in black knight's armor with her golden hair tied high. Seeing her, Dick thought he had found salvation. "Lady Elise, it's him. He destroyed our entire top floor and killed all the experts. Even poor Tina is dead. You must punish him severely." "Oh, and he is." "I don't like you," Elise said, drawing the sword from her back. She moved so swiftly that Claire couldn't even see her draw the sword. Dick's head rolled onto the ground, still frozen in an expression of shock. "Daniel," Elise addressed him, "this was a mishap on behalf of the Dragon Scale Bank Laicity branch. We deeply apologize." But Daniel's gaze had already shifted behind her, where there was nothing to be seen. However, Daniel sensed the presence of a hidden teleportation magic array. If he attacked Elise, she could escape through it or summon reinforcements. "Your powers are truly remarkable. I see you've already noticed the magic array," Elise explained. "It's not meant for you. It's a magical effect bound by my elders." Daniel was growing impatient. He snapped his fingers, and the air around them began to distort as a starry portal materialized. "I can sell you more high-grade items," Elise quickly added, fearing he would leave just like that. "Claire doesn't have the authority, but I, as the new manager sent by the Continental headquarters, can offer you treasures unavailable in Riverside City." That sparked Daniel's interest. He had already noticed something unusual about Elise. Her voice and appearance suggested a plain middle-aged woman, but in reality, she was probably only 18 or 19. The mature exterior was merely the result of some magical artifact. "Get to the point," Daniel said bluntly. He had no patience for people who spoke in circles, like Elise, who had hidden meanings behind every word. The issue was caused by Dick acting on his own, leading to your losses. Your revenge is understandable. We don't want to lose such a valuable customer, and we hope to continue our business with you. Elise spoke professionally, her tone serious. "I believe we can sit down and discuss the specific categories of items in detail." Daniel stared at her face. In his eyes, beneath Elise's ordinary features was a younger face, one desperately trying to appear more mature. "Fine, you can ask Claire about my specific requests, and she'll handle the transactions," Daniel said, not wanting to hear any more. The starry portal fully appeared, and Daniel stepped through, vanishing from sight. Elise watched his back as he disappeared, then turned to Claire with a smile. "That Daniel is quite different from the intel isn't he? Have you gained his trust, Claire? Are you too close? We have no personal relationship, Claire replied, her head lowered. Perhaps Daniel is just used to me handling these matters. Then you will stay in Riverside City, Elisa's voice grew colder. You bear some responsibility for this incident as well. Don't expect a promotion for the next 10 years. One might have expected Claire to look dejected, but she merely nodded and stared at Dick's severed head, lost in thought. A woman who had always valued her career and advancement now seemed profoundly changed after witnessing the recent events. The bank's once mighty experts were no match for someone as powerful as Daniel, who held their lives in his hands. Claire now realized how meaningless her prior ambitions were. True power was the only thing that mattered. Elisa's reprimand didn't bother her. Yes, I'll follow your instructions, Claire said with a bow. She didn't want to leave Riverside City. It was the perfect place to hone her own strength. You know your place, Elise replied. Now, let's discuss the new supply of materials for Riverside City. A soundproof magic array rose around them. Several Dragon-scale bank employees began cleaning and repairing the scene. Dick's body was incinerated like trash, leaving no trace. The same fate befell the other dead experts, their existence erased as if they had never been. Half a day later, the damage to Dragon-scale bank was fully repaired. The incident was over, as if it had never happened. After handling the situation, Elise waved Claire away. As she did, a spectral figure appeared behind her. Were you able to assess Daniel's strength? Elise asked, her shrewd expression fading to reveal the youthful innocence beneath. I could not. He may have used magic to conceal his power, the metallic voice rasped, as if scraping against metal. But he's at least above tier master level. His soul is incredibly powerful. That's what I thought, Elise said, frowning. For someone as skilled as Daniel to show up in an obscure place like Riverside City. It seems the astrological predictions are true. The greatest upheaval in the past century is coming. Master, the metallic voice continued, based on my analysis, Daniel does not like your disguise or your way of speaking. I suggest altering your approach with him in the future. Avoid making him an enemy, and strongly consider building a friendship. I understand, Elise nodded. The chaos is coming, and we must be prepared. Daniel, unaware of what transpired after he left, didn't care. Upon returning to the academy, the first thing he did was check on the injured. Big Headstone had fully recovered, and the others were nearly healed under the greater blessing. These are for them, Daniel said, handing out a dozen mana stones. They can strengthen the body, increase resistance to magic and physical attacks, and enhance speed. He added, those who participated in the mission will receive an additional half-year supply of mana stones. Lady Isolde immediately agreed. She now admired Daniel immensely. Where she once might have silently criticized his more exaggerated actions, she now followed his every command without question. Add a safety course to the curriculum, Daniel ordered. All teachers and students must attend. The course will cover how to protect oneself in dangerous situations. Everyone must master the use of escape magic rays. Daniel admired Big Headstone and the others for their willingness to sacrifice themselves for the academy, but he didn't want such things to happen again. Staying alive was the most important thing. Once you were dead, it was all over. Even if Daniel avenged them, the dead could not be brought back. He preferred to see his subordinates alive and well. Chapter 26, Daniel summoned Aldrich. What rank is a 17-year-old tier diamond knight on the continent? Daniel not only discerned Elise's true age but also her strength level. The tier diamond maid from Dragon Scale Bank, whom he had effortlessly killed, was old and frail. Elise, however, was not even 20 yet and was already at the pinnacle of tier diamond. Within 2 years, she would likely reach tier master. This surprised Daniel somewhat. There were more geniuses on the continent than he had imagined. A 17-year-old tier diamond knight? Aldrich drew in a sharp breath. Are you joking? That's impossible. A child who reaches tier stone by age 10 is already 1 in 10,000. How could there be a 17-year-old tier diamond? His face was filled with disbelief. Daniel nodded, offering no further explanation. Perhaps such talent was rare in a small place like Riverside City, but on the vast continent, there were children born at the tier stone level. Our academy must accelerate its training pace, Daniel declared. Build a new magic training room, enhance the mana system, and require every student to absorb 3 mana stones daily. Open the self-training room 24 hours a day. He would spare no expense to help these seedlings grow faster. A 17-year-old tier diamond knight wasn't of much concern to Daniel. But 17. That age made him rethink his approach. There were children of similar age at his academy, yet they were far behind Elise. The other students, if trained along the standard path, would need at least 5 to 6 years to become exceptional. Daniel had no intention of playing caretaker. If mana stones could speed up training, Then they would be used without limit. Quantity over quality. In a border town, two young people cautiously watched a heavily wounded leopard spell beast. The leopard spell beast had a deep, bone-exposing wound on its abdomen. Before it lay a dead bird spell beast, and the area around them was a mess, clearly the result of a fierce battle. The two were mercenaries from the border city, out to try their luck, only to stumble upon the aftermath of a spell beast battle, scaring them into hiding. Now that both spell beasts were gravely wounded, it was their turn to pick up the spoils. Hee hee, awesome. Didn't think we'd stumble upon something this lucky. One of the young men, baby-faced, held a chipped knight's sword, with armor too mismatched to form a full set. Be careful. The leopard spell beast is still breathing. Don't get yourself hurt. His mage companion stood behind him, eyeing their surroundings warily. Don't worry. I've been watching for a while. The leopard and the crow fought so intensely that even if it's breathing, it's close to death. The baby-faced knight approached the beast. He raised his heavily damaged sword. Just as he neared the leopard, the supposedly dying leopard spell beast suddenly opened its eyes. A flash of red appeared in its eyes, and its body swelled. A cloud of blood mist exploded, targeting the baby-faced young man. Watch out. This is its final attack. The mage shouted, chanting a protective spell that created a glow beneath the knight's feet. But the leopard's final strike was beyond what they could dodge at their level. With a thud, the baby-faced knight was sent flying, blood dripping from the corner of his mouth as he lay injured on the ground. The leopard spell beast let out a mournful cry and collapsed completely. The beautiful mage rushed over, taking out a cheap healing powder and stuffing it into the baby-faced knight's mouth. Idiot brother! She cried, I told you to be careful. If only I had better healing potions. It's fine, we did well today, the baby-faced knight reassured her. As long as we collect every usable part from these spell beasts, we'll have enough money to go to Riverside City. Then we can apply to Crossbridge Academy. I heard they don't charge tuition as long as you pass the entrance exam. We'd even get mana stones every month and new clothes. We wouldn't have to risk our lives like this. Stop talking, brother. The beautiful mage sighed. After bandaging him, she pulled out a skinning knife and began to gather their spoils. The leopard and crow's fight had been brutal, leaving most of the pelts damaged, so she planned to gather some meat instead to sell for a decent price. Suddenly, the mage gasped with excitement, there are eggs. Wonderful. If we sell these eggs, not only will we have enough, but so will everyone else at the orphanage. We can all head to Riverside City together. Just then, a group of young people descended from the sky. Their expressions were haughty, their clothing luxurious, leaving the impoverished mercenary stunned. Not bad, didn't expect to find a bounty here, said the young man leading the group. Collect both spell beasts and the eggs. They may not be worth much, but there are spoils. Wait. The beautiful mage, suppressing her fear, spoke up, these are ours. The leader sneered, you pathetic mercenaries can barely afford decent gear. You didn't kill these spell beasts, you were just scavenging. He glanced at the knight's wound, tossing a few mana stones their way as if tossing scraps to beggars. Now, get lost. I'm in a good mood, so don't annoy me. Or I'll deal with you as well. You're too much. Aren't you afraid I'll report you to the patrol corps? The beautiful mage's face flushed with anger. Patrol corps? The young leader burst out laughing. Patrol corps are nothing. To our Housewind Whisper, they're like dogs, doing as we command. Housewind Whisper. The two mercenaries exchanged a shocked look. With no powerful backing, they dared not offend a powerhouse like Housewind Whisper. The mage had no choice but to gather the few mana stones and prepare to leave with her brother. But the leader smirked at her retreating figure, raising an eyebrow. Did I say you could leave? When someone gives you something, don't you show some gratitude? You're quite pretty. Why not become my maid? All you'd have to do is keep me comfortable at home. It's far better than risking your life out here. That will never happen, the mage said angrily. I refuse to be your maid. There were different kinds of maids. Some were employed for household chores, while others served as toys for the powerful. It was clear which role the young man intended for her, and she'd never agree. This isn't up to you. People like you have no choice. With a glance from the leader, his followers surrounded the mage. Ha, come on, pretty girl. Princess Housewind Whisper's future heir. It's an honor for you and your whole family to serve him, one of his lackeys sneered. Then why don't you take this honor yourself? The mage raised her staff in anger. I'd rather die than serve him. Die? How can you die? Prince's face darkened. Ungrateful wretch. If you won't be my personal maid, I'll shatter your mana core and have you serve drinks in a tavern. Let go of my sister, you beasts. The injured baby-faced knight struggled to rise, but as soon as he moved, blood spilled from his mouth again. Brother, we might die here today, the mage whispered, despair in her eyes. "Don't be afraid. We'll fight them, even if it means death." The baby-faced knight struggled to raise his sword. "We may be poor, but we're not toys for people like them. Enough talk. Take them down," Prince ordered. "Who dares?" A fierce female voice suddenly echoed. Unnoticed, several young women had entered the forest. They were fully equipped and looked at Prince and his companions with disdain. Chapter 27. "So, it's Prince of House Windwhisper," said Rose, the girl who had spoken up earlier, her tone full of disdain. "Bullying others again and trying to steal their spoils?" Prince's eyes briefly flashed with admiration when he saw Rose, but it was quickly replaced by caution. "What's it to you? This isn't your academy. I can do whatever I want here, you have no authority over me." "Well, today, I do," Rose replied. "We all heard you trying to harass this girl. That's something Dead Pink won't tolerate." "Dead Pink? Every time I hear that name, I want to laugh." Prince sneered. "What, did you come up with that name playing kids' games? This area is managed by House Windwhisper. Get lost, or I'll beat you until you beg me to stop. Think you can handle it, weakling?" Rose laughed. Through constant training, Rose's aura had become entirely different. She was now a high-tier bronze, just a step away from silver. The other girls with her were at similar levels. Prince and his group also had several bronze tiers, but Prince himself was an early silver tier, one level above Rose. Despite this, Rose wasn't afraid in the slightest. All of them had fought spell beasts face to face on the borders, and with the top-notch equipment and protections Daniel provided for each student, Rose felt confident she could defeat someone like Prince despite the slight rank difference. "Oh? Are you confused?" Prince squinted. "This is my family's land. Even if I killed you here, as long as no bodies are found, no one would care. You really think your academy would go to war over such a small matter?" "Good point," Rose pondered aloud. "So, if I killed all of you here and no bodies were found, House Windwhisper wouldn't go to war either, right?" "You!" Prince jumped, furious. Just as he was about to speak, a sudden sword aura slashed toward him without warning. Rose had made her move. Prince was startled. He hadn't expected Rose to attack so directly. Although his level was higher than Rose's, he lacked the courage to push forward. Panicking under her sword wind, Prince tried to use magic, but, unpracticed, he stumbled on a tree branch and nearly fell. The sharp sword wind grazed his cheek, shaving off a chunk of his hair and leaving a bloody scratch. "You wretch!" Prince shouted, clutching his face. "How dare you injure me? You're dead." Unable to rely on his magic, Prince reached for a scroll, one containing a mid-tier silver fire spell. If he unleashed it, both the mercenary siblings and Rose would be incinerated. Humiliated, he could only think of lashing out and use the strongest attack method given to him by his elders. "Ladies, attack!" Rose commanded. The girls sprang into coordinated action. Two mages summoned a massive web, ensnaring Prince and his lackeys, while an assassin, who had been hidden from the start, struck each of them with a dagger coated in paralyzing poison. Within moments, Prince and his cronies lay immobilized on the ground. "Coming out here to bully people with that level of skill? Pathetic." Rose sneered. "I'll spare you this time. Get lost. If I catch you doing this again, I'll make sure you regret it. Just wait. You think you're tough because you've got backup?" Prince shouted defiantly. "If you're so brave, join the Mist River Secret Realm trial. I'll have my sister teach you a harsh lesson." "Oh, I'm definitely going." Rose sheathed her great sword. "And when I do, I'll make sure none of House Windwhisper's participants leave unscathed." With that, she threw a scroll onto the ground. A gust of wind swept through the area, and when it died down, Prince and his followers had vanished. The team's healer began treating the mercenary siblings. "All right, you're safe now." Rose walked over. "But you've still managed to anger Prince." "Thank you. You're with Dead Pink, right? I've heard of you, you're all from Crossbridge Academy." The female mage looked at Rose with admiration. "We want to join the academy too." "Our academy would welcome you," Rose replied. "You've got resilience, so I'm sure you'll get in. Please take these spellbeast spoils as our thanks," the mage girl offered. "No need. You need these more than we do, and you watched over them, and your brother was injured because of it," Rose said generously. "Go ahead and keep them." In talking with them, Rose learned that the two were from nearby Black Bear Town, a place under House Windwhisper's influence. If they returned there, Prince would undoubtedly seek them out for revenge after his humiliation. Rose was no longer the naive girl she had once been. "Do you have any family or friends?" she asked. "Send them away from Black Bear Town to nearby Stag Deer Town, that's in Crossbridge Academy's territory. If you want to join the academy, you can recover there and then travel with my people." The mage girl worriedly replied, "We do have a few friends still in town, But if there are so many of us, would Crossbridge Academy really accept us? Of course. Rose replied proudly. Crossbridge's headmaster, Mr. Daniel, is a very kind person. He'd be happy to welcome young people like you. Unlike Prince, Rose never revealed that she was the headmaster's daughter. Her answer brought smiles to the mercenary siblings' faces. They bowed to Rose, full of gratitude. Becoming a Crossbridge student was their greatest dream, and today, it had finally come true. Back at the academy, Daniel received a letter from Rose. He nodded approvingly. Much better than before. All thanks to your guidance, headmaster, Mrs. Olda remarked. Rose commands a great deal of respect among the students. They all admired her. The seedling cultivation plan was progressing smoothly. The young students were venturing out, exploring the world. Not only had they made their mark in Crossbridge's territory, but they had also gone to Lunestone and House Windwisper's lands. The Crossbridge students' strong performance had significantly enhanced the Academy's reputation across the region. Daniel, there's something else I wanted to report, Mrs. Olda said. Our Academy's fame is spreading, and many practitioners have moved near the Academy. Some smaller families have even relocated to Riverside City. These families originally relied on the other two houses. I worry they might take issue with this. Let them. If they're displeased, they can come to me, Daniel replied. He had no qualms about disrupting the long-standing balance of power among the three forces in Riverside City. Seeing the concern on Mrs. Olda's face, Daniel shook his head. Our ambitions extend far beyond here and Lake City. Our academy will one day be the most prestigious institution on the continent. We're only getting started, can't handle the pressure already. I mentioned to Mr. Aldrich once about a 17-year-old Tier Diamond Knight. Compared to her, our students are still far behind. That's just a small target for us now. A 17-year-old Tier Diamond Knight. A small target? Mrs. Olda broke into a cold sweat. Even she hadn't reached Tier Diamond yet. No need to worry, Daniel reassured her. Training isn't just about talent, it's about choice. As long as I'm here, I'll turn even the most average into a so-called genius. Mrs. Olda, although you're in charge of logistics, your strength must improve too. Daniel ordered firmly, within 6 months, you and the other teachers must break through to Tier Diamond and step into Tier Platinum. Chapter 28, Tier Gold and Tier Platinum are a dividing line. Some of the finest magical equipment can only be used starting at Tier Platinum. Daniel now had access to a vast supply of resources, but his team's strength was still lacking. No matter how much he wanted to use powerful equipment, the required rank limited them. Mrs. Olda nodded solemnly. I'll give it my best. Daniel's words ignited an ambition within her. With such a dedicated headmaster willing to go all out to boost their strength, she had no reason not to give it her all. Daniel, how are we handling Lunestone and House Windwisper? Mrs. Olda asked. I'm concerned they might start harassing us. If they do, that's excellent. Daniel replied nonchalantly. He'd been wondering when a suitable excuse to crush them would arise. For Daniel, large organizations like Dragon Scale Bank were already fair game. He didn't think twice before eliminating anyone from these family-run groups. A few days later, House Lunestone and House Windwisper jointly called for a Riverside City Governance Alliance meeting. The alliance was managed by the three families and held meetings every 3 years. However, if two families agreed, an early meeting could be called for urgent issues. All leaders had to attend, or they'd be considered out of the governing council. Daniel immediately understood their motives. He'd initially planned to go alone, but Aldrich and Rowan insisted on accompanying him, as did Mrs. Olda, who even dressed up in a dazzling new magical robe despite usually avoiding formal attire. Upon arrival at the conference hall, Daniel noticed they were the first to arrive. Aldrich whispered, we'll likely have to wait a bit longer. This is meant to intimidate us. Daniel shook his head. Boring tricks. These petty games were laughable in the face of real power. After about 10 minutes, the representatives of the other two houses finally arrived together. Lord Lunestone was a thin man in his 40s, wearing a green mage's robe, with slightly thinning hair and gold-rimmed magical glasses. Lord Windwisper was notable for his large belly, though he wasn't pregnant. He wore neither mage robes nor knight's attire but an extravagantly fancy noble suit instead. The two brought an entourage of a dozen knights each, accompanied by 6 or 7 beautiful mages in tight, high-slit robes. Mrs. Olda glanced at her own modest mage's robe and suddenly felt that their side's presence seemed a bit understated. Daniel glanced at them expressionlessly and spoke bluntly, you two have already discussed this. If there's something to say, get to the point. I don't have time to waste on trivial games like you do. The fake smiles on both house heads froze instantly. They never imagined Daniel would be so direct. They had a whole prepared speech, but it now felt completely useless. Who would have thought Crossbridge Academy would produce a headmaster like you? Lord Windwisper sneered. You're nothing like your father, and certainly not as weak as rumors claimed. Lord Lunastone, still smiling, said, "We're all allies here. Today's meeting is just to clear up some minor misunderstandings. A little conversation, and it's all sorted." "What misunderstanding?" Daniel asked. "Recently, your academy has been active on our lands, frequently clashing with our people and deliberately building a good reputation to draw away those who used to rely on us. Isn't that the case?" Daniel didn't like his tone one bit. With a cold voice, he replied, "That's because you're too weak. People admire strength, and since our students are strong, it's only natural they attract more people. You." Lord Windwisper's face turned red with anger, and he pointed at Daniel. "Even your father didn't dare speak to me like this. Who do you think you are?" Daniel glanced at him, thinking of declaring war. "Our academy could use a bit more space. Annexing your family's land should be enough." Lord Lunastone immediately stood up. "Come now, we're friends, there's no need for anger or arguments. Let's talk this out," he urged. "Daniel, how about we each take a step back?" Lord Lunastone proposed. "We'll overlook those who've already defected to you, but please keep your students from running missions all over our territory in the future." To him, this was already a significant concession. "No," Daniel replied firmly. "My students don't need your restrictions. Instead of asking me to restrain them, why don't you spend less time on these petty tricks and more on improving your strength? If you were stronger, those people wouldn't be leaving you." Lord Lunastone inhaled sharply, looking at Daniel in disbelief. Daniel knew that Lunastone and House Windwisper had already formed an alliance. On the surface, it looked like a negotiation among the three, but it was really 2 against 1. If he gave an inch, they'd take another, and another, until he was backed into a corner. Negotiations reached an impasse. "If that's your attitude, then there's no point in continuing this discussion," Lord Windwisper said, fuming. "So, you brought me here for this nonsense? What a waste of time." Daniel turned and left without hesitation. As he walked away, he remarked casually, "But if you manage to win those people back, I might actually think more highly of you." The rest of the Crossbridge Academy team followed Daniel out. "Bastard!" Lord Windwisper shattered his cup in anger, swearing loudly. "Who does he think he is? If it weren't for his luck in inheriting his father's fortune, Crossbridge Academy would have gone bankrupt long ago." Daniel's dealings with Dragon Scale Bank weren't exactly a secret. The public believed he had inherited his father's legacy, and most assumed it was simply luck. The Academy's recent rise was largely attributed to the wealth of this inheritance, which allowed them to afford top-quality equipment, strengthening the students. So, while the other 2 families knew Crossbridge Academy had become stronger, they assumed it was all luck and outside resources. Why get so mad at that young upstart? A hint of malice flashed in Lord Lunastone's eyes. "I've seen plenty like Daniel. Just because he came into money, he's arrogant. His bad luck will catch up soon enough. When the Mistdriver realm opens, we'll be ready. No matter how many from Crossbridge Academy come, they won't make it out." Lord Lunastone's confidence in his plan made him smile. "At that point, with the Academy defenseless, we can." He made a crushing gesture with his hand. Lord Windwisper asked, "But what about our alliance?" "Haha, alliances are man-made, so men can change them," Lord Lunastone replied confidently. "Once Crossbridge Academy is nothing but a memory, no one will care about it." After leaving the conference room, Mrs. Solda suddenly laughed. "Daniel, you were amazing. Crossbridge Academy has been under their heel for so long, and today we finally made them suffer." Lord Windwisper's face was as red as a tomato. Aldrich added, "While House Windwisper is the strongest, their head's impulsiveness makes him easy to anger. The real threat is Lord Lunastone. He's a cunning, treacherous old fox." "It doesn't matter," Daniel replied. "If they dare lay a hand on the Academy, Lunastone or Windwisper, I'll kill them all." Mrs. Solda and Aldrich exchanged a glance. Daniel's killing intent was intense, but they welcomed it. Crossbridge Academy had suffered long enough at the hands of others. It wasn't a matter of kindness or patience making their enemies relent. The continent was growing more chaotic, and with a strong headmaster like Daniel, they knew they could survive. "Any progress on my father's case?" Daniel suddenly asked. The mention of the old headmaster's name at the meeting had reminded Daniel of the circumstances of his father's sudden death. The former headmaster had harbored many suspicions, but with Crossbridge Academy barely holding on, he'd lacked the means to investigate. But Daniel wouldn't let it go. Chapter 29, "It's difficult to find any useful clues," sighed Rowan, the head of the Academic Affairs Office. The old headmaster took 2 teachers and 4 mercenaries into Mistwood, intending to find Dew Crystal, which can temporarily boost one's strength. Only 1 mercenary made it back alive. According to him, they found the flower but accidentally woke up a giant snake-like spell beast guarding it. The old headmaster specialized in fire magic, But the spell beast overpowered him. The mercenary only managed to escape by using an invisibility potion. The academy had tried its best to investigate, but the incident appeared to be an unlucky accident. After all, a rare herb like dew crystal wasn't only desirable to humans, it was natural for spell beasts to guard it, waiting for it to mature. Could it really have been an accident? Mrs. Olda asked. An accident? Daniel didn't think so. First, the old headmaster specialized in fire magic, which should have given him an advantage over most Mistwood spell beasts. So why did he encounter a snake-like spell beast with water abilities? Snake-like spell beasts usually inhabit warm, humid areas, going into hibernation if the temperature drops too low. And everything that supposedly happened in the forest came from the sole surviving mercenary, who vanished afterward and couldn't be found. To Daniel, the whole affair was highly suspicious. I'll go take a look myself sometime, he decided. Even if it was something concerning the previous headmaster, he felt unsettled leaving it unresolved. Daniel, you can't go. The others said in unison. Aldrich looked on the verge of panic. Mistwood is desolate and teeming with spell beasts, and anyone who ventures there isn't exactly friendly. The academy depends on you now, you absolutely can't risk it. The other teachers nodded in agreement. The academy had grown to its current size entirely due to Daniel. Any harm to him would be catastrophic. Daniel was somewhat speechless. Mistwood scared them that much? But he understood they were concerned for him. Strength shapes one's perspective. While the teachers saw Mistwood as a dangerous wilderness, to Daniel, it was about as threatening as his backyard. Still, he promised the teachers he wouldn't go. If I don't go myself, I can send students, Daniel suggested, inspired by an idea. We'll release it as a mission, and any clues found will earn a reward. It was decided on the spot. On his way back, Daniel noticed that Riverside City was far more crowded than usual. Every shop was packed, and the streets were bustling with people, reminding him of New Year's crowds from his previous life on Earth. With the city center too crowded, people had started expanding outward. Temporary housing was popping up outside the city, effectively doubling Riverside City's area. Especially around Crossbridge Academy. The academy had once been isolated, located on the outskirts, with hardly anyone around except for students. Now, the academy's surroundings were full of people, some even building small houses. Daniel knew they were drawn to the academy. Rowan, the head of academic affairs, mentioned that some people wanted to join the academy but, after failing the entrance test, settled nearby, hoping to pick up tasks the academy occasionally released. Others saw the academy as a safe haven. Many held high hopes for Crossbridge Academy's future. We should strengthen the academy's security, Daniel said. We need to prevent any ill-intentioned individuals from slipping in. The academy's success had drawn many eager applicants. But if the academy ever faced a significant crisis, these same people would turn into greedy hyenas, tearing away any part of the academy they could grasp. This sentiment was shared by many in Riverside City. Some people believed Daniel was ambitious, while others doubted him. Daniel's just riding on his old headmaster's wealth, but that inheritance will run out eventually. When he's out of mana stones, who will stick around? The academy still doesn't have much real strength. Who's to say no one will try to sneak in and steal something? Supporters, however, saw the influx of people as a chance. They believed that among the crowds, there must be some with real potential. With careful selection, adding these people would only strengthen Crossbridge Academy. Regardless, opinions were divided, and Crossbridge Academy became the most talked about topic in the area, with Daniel's name frequently on everyone's lips. The academy's new generation of students was also drawing attention, especially groups like Dead Pink, led by Rose, and Storm Boy, led by Green. Though these students were still relatively weak, they'd earned a positive reputation among the townsfolk by frequently helping others. Aside from these two groups, a new team called the Ragtag Mercenary Squad had emerged, formed by those practicing Daniel's new methods. Directly under Daniel's orders, this team had garnered support from many students. Pleased with Rose's recent performance, Daniel upgraded her constitution, pushing her to mid-tier silver. She trained with the Book of the Ever-Blooming Rose, a guide Daniel tailored for her. Her awakened signature skill, Skybolt, allowed her to fight beyond her tier, capable of killing an early-tier gold if necessary. Still, Rose kept this as a last resort and wouldn't use it lightly. Daniel wasn't playing favorites, he supported any student who performed well. Whether a student was naturally gifted, hardworking, or had unique skills outside of traditional training, Daniel provided ample resources to help them flourish. Crossbridge Academy blossomed as a result. Not only was there impressive strength, but nearly every class of student was represented. Within the academy, there was no class discrimination. As Daniel put it, every class and talent had its value. The academy felt like a large family, its atmosphere of warmth and mutual support influencing newcomers and creating a virtuous cycle. About half a month later, Dragon Scale Bank delivered new treasures. All were 3-star or higher items. The first item was a custom-made 4-star teaching rod designed specifically for Crossbridge Academy. When Daniel saw it, he couldn't help but laugh. He handed it to Synapsis, the Academy's magic and alchemy master. Synapsis had frequently complained to Daniel recently. With an abundance of mana stones, many students preferred buying mana rather than studying potions and alchemy in depth. This won't work. If they run out of potions during an adventure and can't make their own, it's dangerous, Synapsis grumbled. Not recognizing a poison potion and getting killed by it would be disgraceful for me and the Academy. Daniel agreed wholeheartedly. This teaching rod could produce different effects on students when struck, such as refreshing their minds, awakening them from sleep, forcing focus, and even suspending them midair for a spanking. Highly practical. The second treasure was a protective magic array, which Daniel gave to Aldrich. The final and most precious item was a seed from a moonlight magic tree, a rare find on the continent. Once planted, it would grow into a massive tree filled with natural energy, enhancing the area's vitality. Whether day or night, one's body would naturally absorb this energy, boosting strength gradually. Daniel was satisfied with this transaction. It was clear that the old Elise was sincere about strengthening ties with Crossbridge Academy. Even with her high clearance and a 50% discount, the 3 items cost him 300 trillion mana stones. Such an astronomical sum made no dent in his nearly limitless mana stone treasury. Wealth was a wonderful thing. He could buy as much as he liked. Well done, Daniel told Claire, who had came to handle the transaction. Keep up the good work, and feel free to send over any treasures. I'll take them all. This deal solidified his relationship with Dragon Scale Bank. Elise, having witnessed Daniel's formidable spending power, would surely send even more valuable items next time. Chapter 30, Beyond these daily matters, Daniel was also pleased with the members of the Ragtag mercenary squad. They practiced Genesis diligently each day. The progress of their leader, Kent, and the assassin, Lucy, was particularly notable. Both had reached the early stages of Tier Silver, while the other members were nearing the peak of Tier Bronze. The team had made a massive leap compared to before. Daniel, accompanied by Rose, went to visit the Ragtag mercenary squad's residence, conveniently located close to his quarters so he could easily monitor their progress. In the courtyard, a glowing magic array was operating, and all the squad members were inside. Mana stones were flickering and being rapidly consumed as mana was absorbed. Daniel was investing resources without hesitation to boost their development as quickly as possible. Father, Rose suddenly asked, are they my brothers and sisters? What a considerate daughter, thinking of all the Academy's students as her family. Daniel nodded. I see, Rose continued. No wonder everyone says the members of the Ragtag mercenary squad are actually your illegitimate children. And Lucy and I even have similar names. I'm not a kid anymore, you can tell me the truth. What? A question mark practically appeared over Daniel's head. Though few things could shake him now, Rose's words left him thoroughly confused. What about Lucy and Rose seemed alike? They didn't even have the same initials. Could it be some old romantic affair of his predecessor? Daniel thought back carefully, combing through the former headmaster's memories. He confirmed that the original headmaster only had one daughter, Rose. Where did you get such a strange idea? Daniel asked. Who was everyone exactly? All the students at the academy think so. Rose blinked her big eyes innocently. Otherwise, why would you treat them so well? They weren't students you raised from the start at the academy. Unless the god of kindness inspired you, you wouldn't be giving them so much attention. There was no hint of jealousy in Rose's face, only curiosity. Daniel chuckled. He knew the academy's youth loved to gossip, but he hadn't expected them to gossip about him. Clearly, they didn't have enough assignments and training. Starting tomorrow, all of it would be doubled. Rose, I don't have any illegitimate children, Daniel said. And even if I did, I'd have no reason to hide their identity. Oh? Rose asked, then are the Ragtag mercenary squad really orphans from outside? Yes, Daniel replied, giving her a brief summary of his encounter with them. With their self-sacrificing spirit, determination, and resilience, I have every reason to support them. I see. Rose nodded firmly. I didn't know they had such a touching friendship. Don't worry, Father, I'll go set those gossipers straight. I'll also be sure to treat the Ragtag mercenary squad well. Daniel advised her, remember, all your groups may develop differently, but you're all academy students. Never let internal conflicts arise. Rose took Daniel's words seriously. She looked at the magic array with anticipation in her eyes. Father, their training speed seems much faster in there. Can I go in too? This magic array isn't suitable for you, Daniel explained. While it's fast, it has its drawbacks. I'll design a flawless array specifically for you. Daniel hadn't hidden the flaws of the magic array from the ragtag mercenary squad. This array worked wonderfully in the early stages, rapidly accelerating training speed, but its drawbacks became apparent at Tier Diamond. The members of the ragtag mercenary squad expressed no concerns about this limitation. Kent, the leader, even said, "Daniel, without you, we probably wouldn't have even reached Tier Gold, and we might have died on some adventure ages ago. Tier Diamond isn't something we ever thought we'd attain. The future is distant. We just want to make the most of the present." Even though this array was quite effective for early growth, Daniel wouldn't allow Rose to use it. Rose felt a warm glow in her heart. Her father really did care about her the most. She leaned against Daniel, as she had when she was younger, and shared stories about her recent adventures. Of course, Daniel already knew. He had someone secretly watching over her and knew how hard she'd worked and how close she came to danger more than once. Rose had earned her reputation among the students by helping her classmates and handling things fairly. Yet with Daniel, she avoided any complaints and only shared the funny, light-hearted stories. Daniel stroked her hair. She was growing into a thoughtful, caring young woman, conscious not to make him worry. After about an hour, the light from the magic array dimmed, and the monastones turned to ash as their energy was fully depleted. The ragtag mercenary squad opened their eyes. Seeing Daniel and Rose, they respectfully greeted them, "Headmaster, Miss Rose." A flicker of gold flashed in Daniel's eyes as he scanned their progress. The strongest members, Kent and Lucy, had hearts radiating mana, their primary organs brimming with mana patterns, and even their secondary organs beginning to transform. Genesis had reshaped them entirely. They could now absorb natural energy faster, and their physical strength had improved significantly. This was the unique trait of Genesis. Regardless of whether one was a mage or a knight, practicing Genesis improved physical strength immediately. Later, depending on one's class, the enhancements would vary. Compared to traditional mages and knights, they would be stronger, faster, more agile, and recover faster after healing. The biggest improvement was seen in Lily, the team's priest, whose initial physical strength had been quite poor. Daniel had even doubted she could handle long-distance expeditions. But after a few months of Genesis, Lily was much stronger and even had a bit of muscle, rare for a priest. "Don't go so far that you become a melee priest, bashing people with your staff," Daniel chuckled. "The experimental phase of Genesis is over. With a few adjustments, it'll be ready for large-scale promotion soon." "Go ahead, Rose," Daniel said. "Show me who's stronger, you or Kent." "Yes." Rose responded without hesitation, drawing the great sword on her back and walking toward Kent. Kent nodded and took up the weapon Daniel had given him. Both were knights at Tier Silver. Kent was a few years older, with more combat experience from his time fighting alone, while Rose had caught up quickly, constantly improving through battle. The other members' levels were no match for Rose. "No killing moves," Daniel instructed. "This is just a spar." "Yes, sir." They replied in unison. As soon as the words left Daniel's mouth, they struck simultaneously. A loud boom shook the ground, kicking up a ring of dust. They locked eyes, their fighting spirit ignited. Kent's strength was formidable, but Rose was faster. After testing each other's moves, Rose gained the upper hand, exploiting Kent's blind spots with her agility and striking his armor multiple times. "The rest of you, join in," Daniel said. "Don't hold back." "Yes." The other members of the ragtag mercenary squad leaped into action. Lucy, the assassin, vanished instantly. The mage and priest began chanting spells, while the hunter summoned his magic pet and aimed his armor-piercing bow at Rose. Their coordination was seamless, blocking all of Rose's escape routes. "Good." Rose laughed. "Come on. It's been too long since I had a good fight." She flickered like a whirlwind and lunged first toward the mage and priest at the rear. Daniel watched the battle with a smile. Though the fight was intense, to him, it was like watching children throwing mud at each other. "Not bad," he murmured. "At their level, they're already among the top fighters."